Hello! Let me know if you guys can hear me. Hello to Zane and Monster Slurpee and The Pudding Dread and Diamond Lock and Bluntosaur and Arid and Treyu, I think it is. Goofus, Andrea, Rockstock, Shire, Caning, Catharsis, Shire, I don't know if I said Shire already. Beast Shirt? B-Shirt. And yeah, I think that's everybody I'm seeing in chat. Hey guys, how are you guys doing? Did you have a good week? Can you hear it? Hear me? Can you? Oh, good lord. You know what? Let me start off by taking a sip of water, because already I'm tripping over my words. You guys doing good? You guys had a good week? Should have done that before start switching the mic on, but oh well. You never know how thirsty you are until you actually start talking, and then you're like, oh, wait a second, I'm actually really thirsty. Okay, let me do transition. There we go. And I'm going to switch my tablet on, so this is my PC, not yours. There we go. It's not a CPAP stream without a swig. I'm still waiting for like that bingo chart, which I keep joking about. I'm not being too serious about that. But there's like a bunch of things which, like, without fail, I will mention it at some point in the stream. And instead of being like self-conscious about it and like, oh dear, I keep saying the same things over and over. It's like, nah, just make it a bingo stream. Make it like a feature instead of a bug. You're so tired today? You don't want to nap? I can't nap. I've tried napping in the day and it doesn't work for me. I always just feel worse once I wake up again. Or I don't fall asleep at all, which sucks. Good week. Hoping to finish a sketch today. Oh, cool. I almost lost my streak on Green Language Learning app. Yeah, that's the way to put it. I actually deleted the Owl app. I switched to Busu, which I'm enjoying a lot more, I must say. But before we start chatting and so, we have to decide what I'm drawing today, because, you know, I can keep chatting once I start a stream. I think there was one stream I talked for like, I think it was like 10 minutes before I started drawing. And not everybody is here to like stare at the screen while I'm drawing, but at the same time, let's get something going before I get completely distracted. Don't forget that I had to get up at 5 a.m. to clean the bathroom at work. Oh, that's fun. Something Vivsy Pop? Is that a good idea? Is that like a safe idea to do? I mean, I'm definitely going to be doing Has-Been Hotel after my adventures with Superman, simply because I think there's so many interesting things to talk about regarding Has-Been Hotel. Not like the drama stuff. I'm not really interested in that. Much like High Guardian Spice. It's like background noise, but I feel much like High Guardian Spice. So many people focus on the drama on Twitter regarding Has-Been Hotel that people aren't focusing as much on the show itself and like the quality level that the show is in of itself. And I think there's an interesting discussion to be had there. But I don't know whether it's safe enough to draw anything Has-Been Hotel yet because people are mad. Lois is the obvious pick. I already drew Lois though. I mean, I can draw her again if we can't think of anything else, but I think it would be cool if we could, just shake it up a bit and draw different things at different times. How about something from Ghostbusters, since Frozen Empire comes out next month? Ooh. Maybe. I'm not too sure. Kamen Rider Kuga, since you mentioned you were watching it. I mean, I could. I just don't want to alienate my audience because I don't know how many people are like aware of what Kamen Rider Kuga is outside of obviously being a Kamen Rider show. Clark, maybe. I keep saying maybe and ums and ahs. What did you join? What did you miss, Caleb? Nothing. I've literally just started. Velma. No. I'm done with Velma. I have survived Velma. I don't want to interact with it in any form unless like a season 2 comes out, which is very questionable at this stage. Lupa? Maybe. I keep saying and ahs and ums. I kind of like Clark because I'm still busy with my adventures with Superman. Gorilla. Oh no, I only don't want to draw. What is his name? Monsieur Mala. I don't think I said his name once in the review. I just referred to him as the gay French gorilla because it's a lot of fun to point out that there is a character in this show that is a gay French gorilla, and like those 3 words strung together is just hilarious to me. I just kept saying it over and over. People saying Luna and Artemis. Okay, but here's the question: do we draw Cat Luna or do we draw human Luna? Because those are 2 very different things. Because I'm up for drawing Luna. I really like Luna in general. Yeah, but I don't want to draw Monsieur Mala because he's a gorilla and I don't know. I've never attempted to draw a gorilla before, and to like fumble and trip over myself on stream would be extremely embarrassing for me. As a cat? Most people are saying Cat Luna. I see Zane says Princess Kaguya Luna, which is human Luna. But I'm seeing mostly cats, so we can do that. I mean, she's just a cat, so I don't really... Well, let me bring up a reference, because I say she's just a cat, but if I just draw a cat like how I draw a cat, that is a lot different to what Luna actually looks like. Let's see. Screenshot... Oh, not screenshots. Sailor Moon. And... Anime. And where is an image? Oh, no, not in this folder. It'll be in the screenshots folder. There it is. And HD. And we have the S movie. Oh, we should draw her with the ribbon around her neck from the movie. Just because it's really cute and I like it. Let's see. So, she's sick in this picture, but there is this picture. And let me see what else I have. Oh, this one's really cute. Actually, I know she's sick in this picture, but I actually quite like the pose. Ja, ich liebe Katzen. Draw both of them if one is too easy. Yeah, I think I'll draw both of them because I think just drawing Luna on herself, just because there's not much going on in like the design, that would not take me too long to draw. Let me make this landscape though instead of portrait. Edit. Okay, flip canvas. Here we go. Rotate 90 degrees. There we go. Sick or in love? No, she's sick in this picture. She's it's the beginning of the movie. She's got a fever. Now, let me just reposition the mic. Here we go. Now, what could they be drawing? Oh, you know what? We can draw like the pose that there is at the end of the movie where she's like this and he's like this. And she is this and he's like this. He's facing down, she's facing up. I already drew them a little big, hold on. Should have zoomed in more. Brush. No, that's not brush, that's blur. Also, I think Catalina would be pretty easy because I was in the the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic fandom up until like 2014. So I've drawn a lot of ponies. I mean, I haven't in a long while, but back in the day, there was a lot of like specifically that style of My Little Pony, which is more cat than actually horse. Let's be real. So if I can remember how to do it, it should be easy. No, that's not what I'm looking for. You see what are her back legs doing? Are they quite far apart? Actually, let me do this. Okay. So this one is about here. And this one goes out quite far. I think I you know what, the perspective is wrong here. Let me just try and problem solve this before I see what chat's talking about. So like this. Here we go, and then we can do that. And Artemis can be here. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Indigo Cozy. Which was your favorite background pony? Mine was Applejack. That's so mean, but so true. I really liked Lyra because I liked her color scheme. I really like that like mint teal color. I'm a big, oh no, that looks wrong. I'm a big fan of that color in general, so I was quite a fan of her design. I don't know whether Vinyl Scratch counts as a background pony. I thought her design was pretty cool. But I think Lyra would be the one that I quite liked. And one of the reasons I fell out of the show in general is because I wasn't really liking what the fandom was doing for the most part. I found it quite obnoxious in many ways. And then when the show started catering more to that specific fandom, it just turned me off and I wasn't really into it. But I really like Lyra's design, but I don't really like the personality that the fandom started giving her. Like, it became not something I was interested in because the fandom turned her basically into Mulder from X-Files, except about humans. And and the only reason they did that is because in one of the very early episodes, she's sitting on a bench in the background like a human being instead of a pony. And so everybody like took that one innocuous little detail in the background and then turned it into like her entire personality. And I was just like, oh, jeez. Oh, there is the super chat signal. Wow. Okay, hopefully this turns out better when I actually start drawing it. I think... Okay, well, his head is down here and his neck's there. I think I'm not making her neck... No, their necks are quite short. Okay. I thought I wasn't making her neck long enough, but I think it's actually fine. Make them a little bigger. Here we go. Turn this down. And sketch layer. Okay. Hey CPuff, out of curiosity, did you see the recent Digital Circus episode teaser video? I haven't, but a friend did link it to me, so I need to watch it still. What was I doing that I missed it? I was doing something when she linked it to me. I was like right in the middle of something, and I can't remember what it was, but I saw it and I was like, oh, I need to watch that, and then I didn't. So I need to get back and actually look at what it is. Apparently, they like call out a bunch of like copycats that have been popping up on YouTube. Like they made fun of that in the middle of that video at the same time. It was very strange. I need to start watching X-Files again. Used to when I was a preteen in the mid-90s. I only restarted watching it very, very recently. And I'm only on season 2. I quite like it so far. I put it down because I got stuck in a part of season 2 where Scully is just not around for a very long time. And that was what the major plot was focused on for a while. And it just kind of dragged on a little bit long for me, and I'm like, oh geez, can we please get back to the aliens and the weird like government conspiracy stuff? Please, can we get past like Scully not being around? So I put it down and started watching other things, and as usual I got distracted and watched something else instead, and I need to get back to it. And that's like, I don't know, that's probably a thing a lot of people have a problem with, right? Is when you watch a show, you're binge watching a show that's quite long, and then something happens where it just kind of makes you lose interest slightly, and then you get distracted by something else entirely, and before you know it, like half a year has gone by and you haven't checked in with the show that you were enjoying up to that point. And then you're like, oh geez, where was I again? And then you end up having to like restart from scratch almost. Luckily with X-Files, because it's a 90s show, it's not as episodic. No, it's not as like every single episode is important to the plot. It's quite episodic, so you can get away with not quite remembering what happened in the previous episodes. But yeah, I need to get back to it. I quite liked it from what I saw. Like I said, it was just like that plot thread just kept going way too long, and I got so tired of it after a while. A lot of people have ADHD. Yeah, I don't always want to blame the ADHD, but at the same time, it's like, no, that's exactly what's causing that. That's why that's happening. I was working at a movie theater when the X-Files movies premiered. Were the X-Files movies any good? I know that the, like, revived TV show was quite mixed reception, but that's usually what happens when something comes back after, like, decades. Because I think to some degree, people have an expectation of what a show was when it was coming out, and their expectation of the show almost becomes completely disconnected from what the show really was like. So then when a movie comes out and it's actually very, very in line with what the original show was like, people are like, no, this isn't what the show was like at all, and then they reject the movie almost. That happens sometimes, not all the time, but I've seen it happen quite a few times. And I think that's why the Invader Zim movie was so remarkable, because the Invader Zim movie feels like the show. It feels like the show stopped airing yesterday and they made the movie. It's actually quite amazing. I saw somebody tag me. Let me just go back. I think it was Blantosaurus said something. Oh, you were saying about the movie theater. Right. The first movie is pretty good. The second one is mediocre, but it's still Vince Gilligan compared to most of the revival episodes. Okay, I see. Yeah, I've heard mixed things about the revival episodes. I heard some people say they're absolute trash, and I've heard some people say no, they're very good. So I'm not entirely sure what to make of them. However, like I said, I paused watching X-Files in season 2, so I still have so much to go, so I don't need to worry too much about whether the movies are worth watching just yet, because I'm not there yet. Wait, what am I doing with this perspective? This foot... Let me check my perspective before I start talking about X-Files. Yeah, it should be here. Okay. There you go. I paused Dune 1 for this stream. Are you enjoying it? I quite like Dune 1, but I felt that, to me, it felt like you have to have read the books to... not to be like, you need to have read the books to properly understand the Dune movie. But it felt to me like the Dune movie was meant to kind of support the books. And a lot of it was like, well, you've read the book, so you understand the nuance of this. So we are presenting you the movie with the belief that you have already, you are already aware of these events and these people. But I'm not sure, because my dad said he hasn't read the book and he found the movie fine. He didn't feel he needed to have read the book to enjoy the movie, so I'm not entirely sure. But to me, I was like, I'm so glad I read at least half of the first book. I need to get back to it. But there's a lot of it where I'm like, I don't know if I would have understood what's going on if I hadn't actually read half of the first book. And I need to read the second half of the first book before part 2 for Dune comes out. I fell asleep during the Dune movie. I don't want to say I don't blame you, because it's not a boring movie, but it's got that vibe that's very easy to fall asleep to. Haven't seen either. I don't think the second one, is it out yet? I don't think it's coming. I think it's still a while before it's going to come out. I don't know. Is it like December? I think the trailer released recently. I think that's what I'm thinking. The trailer released recently, and that's what people are very psyched about, because I watch a lot of those movie reaction channels, right? And I think I saw a lot of people reacting to the trailer, and I don't watch those videos. So I think that's what I saw, is reacting to Dune Part 2 trailer, and I'm like, no, I'll wait for the movie itself, thank you. But that's why I've been seeing it a lot in my recommended. The David Lynch Dune is pretty great bad movie. You know what? I recommend watching Jodorowsky's Dune, which is a documentary about the Dune movie that Jodorowsky was planning to make. The documentary is fascinating on its own, but the part where Jodorowsky talks about the David Lynch Dune movie is so funny. It is so hilarious, because he is so happy at how bad that movie is, because like his movie didn't see the light of day. He was so depressed when he heard David Lynch got the contract to make a Dune movie, because he's like, oh shit, David Lynch is such a good filmmaker, it's going to be so good, it's going to be so much better than anything I could have made. And then he went to go watch it, and it was so terrible, and he's just so happy about that. It's very good. Highly recommend that documentary. It's just a good documentary, but Jodorowsky is just a fun person to like look at. His reactions, he's a really hilarious person in my opinion. I thanks for the super chat, Kevin. Hey, I can like these. I forgot I can like super chats. I must like the previous one as well. Hey CPuff, sorry I'm going to miss the stream. Wanted to send you a gift for all the great videos you've made. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. I'm so happy you guys are liking them. I was, like I said earlier, I think I said this already. Yeah, I must have said this in the previous stream. But I was kind of bummed out that I'm busy with Superman when Has Been Hotel has just come out, which is a much bigger and more popular discussion point. But then seeing how people are losing their minds on Twitter about Has Been Hotel, it's like, you know what, maybe it's okay that it's going to be a month or two before I get to that show, just to kind of give people time to calm down. I think she has 3 eyelashes. No, she only has 2. Okay. There we go, like that. Because that kind of thing is important with Sailor Moon characters. Like, people will often say, oh, the Sailor Moon characters, they all have the same face. They all look exactly the same except, like, their height. But their eye shapes are actually completely different from each other in that, like that's how you differentiate between them, even though they don't have any variation in body type. But because the eyes are what differentiate them, it's so important to be aware of what details each character's eyes actually have, because that's what sets them apart, aside from like the color scheme and the hairstyle and things like that. Do that. Here we go. Yeah, Vivzy won't keep quiet about a single piece of criticism. That's what I've heard. I think somebody in the previous stream said as well that there are certain channels where they almost only exist to talk about, not even criticize Has Been Hotel, but to talk about the drama surrounding it. So anybody who criticizes it, they will like pounce on just because it's something to talk about, right? And that in turn makes the topic that they're talking about like a target almost. And I'm like, this is all so high school. It's so high school and immature, and I don't have the time of day to waste on this kind of nonsense. But yeah, the big problem seems to be that Vivzy is extremely sensitive to criticism, which when I cover it, I'll keep that in mind. Because, like I said, I think I will do similar to what I did with High Guardian Spice, where I will mention that this is a thing going on in the background, but my focus is on whether or not I think the show itself is good and what I think the takeaways from it is and such. And just because it's a piece of indie animation that got picked up for major release and got, you know, I think that is an interesting talking point. And comparing changes between the original pilot and the finished product, like that to me is far more interesting to talk about than whatever Vivzy is fighting about on Twitter. Will you do Hell of a Boss as well? I might. It depends how much time it would cost me to sink into it. Because I talk so much, because I don't know how to shut up and it ends up making the videos very, very long. I don't want to cover something that's going to end up with hours and hours and hours of me having to watch it, because chances are I will then end up having hours and hours and hours of me talking about it and saying things about it, and it'll make the video like 6 hours long, which I know isn't a problem for you guys. I know you guys like long videos. I mean, so do I. I just recently watched, was it Patrician TV? He made like an 8-hour video about Starfield, which is really good. It's such a good video. But what kills me is the editing. Having to edit something that's like almost 2 hours long, it's really draining. It's like running a marathon. So I'm just worried that if I'll probably have to watch Hell of a Boss as well, just to kind of have context. But I don't know if I will cover it, because that'll add like just hours upon the discussion. But I will probably have to watch it just for... This paw is too big. Just for like context, because what was it that I was making a video on, that I watched something completely unrelated just because I offhandedly mentioned it in the video. Excuse me, hiccup. And my thinking is, well, if you're going to mention it even offhandedly in your video, you need to know what you're talking about. So you need to sit down and watch this entire movie, which you're only going to mention like in passing. What was it? I think it was Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. It was that movie, but I can't remember what video it was that I watched it for. But for some reason I watched Mr. Deeds Goes to Town and I mentioned it in like one sentence, because I'm very, very scared of accidentally spreading misinformation through my videos. And I know there's like 1 or 2 mistakes, very small minor mistakes in my videos, but it is something that I'm very worried about. I don't want to accidentally put wrong information out there. So I have this like obsessive need to like get context and make sure I have the right context and all that. I might have to flip her just to see. Okay, she is a bit off balance, but she is leaning against Artemis, so it should be okay. I'm just going to switch, fix his perspective a little bit. There we go. I think I might have to free transform. Just make these a little bit shorter as well, because he's looking down, so his neck is quite compressed. I'll see when I get there. There we go. How would CPAF merch look like? I'm not sure. I would have to think about that. It would probably be something to do with my avatar. Oh, wrong layer. And it would probably be... I don't know. I would have to look at like... I know I'm not a VTuber, but I like looking at the VTuber stuff that they do. Actually, let me do this in another layer, because if I do that, then if I need to move it around, it'll be much easier without disturbing Luna's sketch share. But I like to look at like what they do in terms of merchandise and not avatars, emojis. And that's why for members, I put up a bunch of emojis. Let me just grab them. For channel members, because I was seeing that that's what a lot of the VTubers have. And I was like, that's really cute. I think that's much better than the kind of emojis I was offering. So I would probably, if I ever do merch, I would probably look at what they're doing kind of thing. But at the same time, I'm not an anime waifu. So it probably wouldn't be things like... What's that drink that they all sponsored by? Like waifu mugs or something? It wouldn't be something like that. Do you happen to know the Astartes animation shorts? It's Warhammer, but it's a magnificent piece of animation. Is that like the one where it's like Warhammer versus furries and things. Because I have a friend who's very into Warhammer, and he keeps linking me those. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about. Actually, let me flip this because it'll be easier to draw Artemis's face from this angle. Like this, like this. Yes, okay. Fuel mug? Is that what? No, it's not G Fuel. It's something else. There's a specific company. They make like, I don't know if they're tumblers, but they're literally mugs. And then they've got like the waifu on the mug itself. It's not G Fuel, because I think G Fuel is like an energy drink mix or like a protein mix or something. And it's not that. It's something else. I know that Radical Soda is sponsored by them as well, because he has his... It's not his avatar, but his character Poppy that he uses in his thumbnails. He's got her on one of the Tumblr mugs. Pins and stickers would probably be the easiest type of merch, I'd imagine. Probably, yeah. Stickers would be probably cool. It just feels weird, and it probably shouldn't, because I mean it's how it works. It feels weird when I have like the avatar, right? And the little avatar I have, Game Subs, oh thank you. The avatar I have is like a cartoonified version of myself. So having that as like the merch, it's a strange sensation, because it's like, well, it's supposed to be representative of me, but it's not really me. So is it like okay to think about that character design in terms of like merch sales and things? It's a really weird thing to think about. I don't know if I'm drawing this expression right. I think this line is confusing me. Oh no, it's right. It just needs to be tilted up a bit. There we go. It just seems weird because his eyes are like leaning upwards, but he's looking down. That's why it seems a bit odd. Do that. I'd buy pins. I've got a bunch of Hell of a Boss pins. I really enjoy pins. I have not that many pins because shipping to South Africa is insane. You know, you buy a pin for $5 and then shipping is like $12, and it's like, I'm not doing that. But I do have... I've got a pin for the Inkal. I've got one of the concrete seagulls. I've got a Oswald the Lucky Rabbit pin. I've got a Little Mermaid pin. I've got a Usagi Yojimbo pin. I've got a Garrus pin. I've got a Kingdom Hearts pin. What's that other one? Hold on, let me look. Oh, it's Sailor Moon. And I have a Sailor Moon pin. So I saw somebody describe pins as like, pins are stickers for anxious millennials because it doesn't come with the commitment of sticking it somewhere forever. Pins or stickers? Okay, that's worth thinking about. I'll think about it because I would have to do it like through a printing shop. I wouldn't like ship them off myself simply because, again, the shipping would just be ridiculous from my side of the world to you guys. No, I don't like that. There we go. There we go. There we go. I think that's good. Hold on. Maybe I should just flip it and see. Yeah, I'm a bit unsure about this part. I think it's a bit too far back. Oops. Not pen tool, pencil tool. It's a bit too far back, so I'll just bring it in a little bit. There we go, it's better. And I should bring this up a little bit more. Yeah, because I figure most of your viewers are not in South Africa. No, I'm not sure where most of my viewers are. And the thing is, YouTube actually gives you those analytics, but I do not look at the analytics tab because that is a bad time. That is not something you want to do because YouTube structures its back end where it encourages you to know absolutely every single metric about your channel. It wants you to know, is your audience mainly male or female? What is the age range of your audience? Which parts of the world are your audiences most from? What is the click-through rate? What is the click-away rate? What is the attention time? It like keeps track of all of that, and it like wants you to purposefully become obsessive about it, because if you become obsessive about it, it'll mean you'll push out more product in an attempt to make more money, for yourself, but also for YouTube, because YouTube takes a cut, right? So I just don't look at any of it, because it's way too easy to get completely obsessive about that and just like give yourself massive anxiety about it. So I just stay away from it. Let's see, what do I want this expression to do? No. Oh, that's good. A little off topic, but have you been playing anything new lately, game-wise? Not really. I'm almost finished with Mass Effect 3 again. And once I'm finished with Mass Effect 3, I'm going to get onto Baldur's Gate 3. Because I'm going to be an emotional mess once I finish Mass Effect 3. So I'm kind of being like, well, you're going to have Baldur's Gate 3 to look forward to, because I haven't played it yet. But most of the time, because of our electricity situation, I don't play games that often, because I like sitting down and playing video games for very long stretches of time. So it really sucks when the power keeps going out, and then the power goes out at like in a very bad time of day. I like playing video games in the evening, and it sucks when the power's like, well, the power's going to be off between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. And then I'm like, well, I can start playing a game at 10, I guess, but it's already kind of late then, and I'm doing other things at that time of day, and it just, it just becomes a mess trying to like navigate the whole thing. So I tend to watch things more than I play games, because even when the power is off, I can watch things on my laptop, even though there's no electricity, whereas my gaming laptop takes so much power to run that it just drains the battery. And then I can only like play something for like half an hour at most, so it's not even worth it. We can play games, we can definitely play games. Is that, yeah, I see you say that's a DSP. Have you watched anything analog horror? I have, but I think I enjoy watching people talk about analog horror more than I actually enjoy analog horror itself. Like, I prefer listening to Wendy Goon talk about it, or somebody like breaking it down, more than I enjoy watching the analog horror itself. So I like analog horror, but I think I like it by proxy. And it's probably just me, because I really enjoy documentaries and I really like YouTube essays. So I think it's just personality wise. This doesn't actually reflect anything. It doesn't say anything about analog horror itself. It's just the way that I like consuming that kind of content. I've made this leg way too thick. Let me flip him again. I think it might be easier if I draw him from this side. Do you have any favorite old school animation studios like Hanna-Barbera? I'm not sure. Because like UPA Productions, that's a redundant statement. UPA comes to mind, but I don't like everything UPA did. It's just like one or two UPA things I really like. UPA had a short film about Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart, and it's really good and I really like it a lot. But I don't particularly like the art style that UPA used a lot. And it's not because it's a bad art style, I just don't really like it. It's not my thing. So I can't say, oh, I really like UPA, but at the same time, I guess I respect what they were doing, is the best way to put it. Hanna-Barbera is cool, but I dislike more of their content than I like. So I can't really say I'm a big fan of theirs. I'm trying to think. Because it's difficult, because in the 60s, Hanna-Barbera was the only show in town, right? Because UPA existed, but UPA was kind of in their own category, doing their own very strange, weird thing. So it was like, well, in the 60s, it was Hanna-Barbera or nothing. Those were your only choices. Mr. Magoo UPA, I wasn't too fond of Mr. Magoo. Again, I couldn't tell you why. It wasn't for me. I think it's fine, but I don't think it's for me. Like I said, I really like the Telltale Heart short though. It's really good. I like it a lot. And I think I like the short they did. I think it's called Rudy Toot Toot. I think that's what it is. What? Because I don't know if Rudy Toot Toot is the one that's using the song Frankie and Johnny, or if that's a different short they did. 70s Hanna-Barbera with Scooby-Doo clones. Yeah, and then the 70s rolled around. The 70s was like one of the worst periods for American cartoons, like ever. Because there was this horrible combination of it's illegal to market things towards children, which meant that animation studios had no income. Because say what you will about brand name recognition, say what you will about like commercializing toys and video games for children, and how especially the cartoons of the 80s are all basically just toy commercials. But the thing is, that branding helped budget those studios. The only reason those studios were able to make cartoons was because they had money come in from the toy companies. And in the 70s, they weren't allowed to do that. So a lot of cartoons in the 70s were just really not good because the money wasn't there. And then the other problem was, I know it was a rule in the 90s, but I think there was a similar rule in the 70s where all children's programming, regardless of what it was, had to be educational. Like there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you were making content for children, it had to be educational. And that's why even in the 80s, you had like the G.I. Joe very special messages at the end of the cartoons and stuff. That's why that's in there, because it's the only like loophole that a lot of those cartoons could do to get their shows able to exist, because they had to be educational towards children. That was like a stipulation of the law. So the 70s, it was just a bad combination. Absolutely terrible combination for anything creative whatsoever. Sailor Moon Says is weird because when did Sailor Moon air in America? Was it the 90s or was it already the 2000s? Because if it was like the 90s, that's probably also why Sailor Moon Says exists, is because it has to be classified as a piece of educational material for children. And in order to do that, they need some form of like, oh, this is an educational program. And that's why you have a lot of those so-and-so says sequences. So I'm wondering if that might be why they tacked that onto the American dub of Sailor Moon, the original one. Late 90s? That could be why then. Because I do know that screwed up a lot of shows. That's basically why Project Geeker was unceremoniously murdered, was because it did not manage to classify itself as a piece of educational entertainment. I think Artemis's head is way too small. Hold on. Let me just make this a bit bigger. There we go, that's better, yeah. Yes. Hide this. Turn this on. Oh, I wanted to put the ribbon around her neck as well. Which I'll bring up a reference, but I think it's literally just a ribbon. I don't think there's like anything. I need to double check. It was the 90s. The 2000s were when it re-aired on Toonami. Okay, that's why I get confused. Because I've got some trading cards from the American dub of Sailor Moon, and those are trademarked to the year 2000. So I wasn't entirely sure when the dub for Sailor Moon aired. And I know there was, I guess it's also a bit of confusion because Sailor Moon is 5 seasons. Only the first 4 got dubbed into English originally. And like, I don't know what the distribution of those were, whether it also took them like 5 years to air every single season. Like, I don't know any of that stuff because it's all American television stuff and it's not really relevant to my TV experiences or anything. Like, Sailor Moon has never aired here. We did get Dragon Ball Z. We didn't get Dragon Ball. We only got Dragon Ball Z, so, you know, good luck with that. But Sailor Moon just never aired here. And even to to this day, you can't buy Sailor Moon on DVD here at all. It's just not released here. Just hide her for a second so I can draw Artemis's crescent mark. It's kind of funny how I found CPuff's channel on YouTube roughly last year by pure chance. Well, I'm glad I'm interesting enough to have for you to have stuck around that long. Do that. Yeah, I'm just thinking again, and I think I will have to watch Hell of a Boss as well for context. Which will, I mean, that's not terrible or anything. I would just have to like restrain myself from saying too much about it in the actual video, or we'll be here for like the next 10 years of our lives. I think that's good. And let me just check, let me just grab a screenshot of her with her ribbon on so I can see what it looks like. Let's see. Okay, I see it here, but it's in a side view. Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. We've got this one. There we go. Oh, and they've got whiskers. I forgot. They both have whiskers, right? Yes, they do. Okay. And something you don't really see in like anime a lot is they don't tend to give like the cat characters whiskers like at all. I'll check where do they come out? Oh no, they come out more from their cheeks than where whiskers actually come out of. Probably to avoid it like looking like a mustache. Probably. There we go. Yes, that looks better. I might have to move hers down a bit. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Does she also have those little... No, oh, here she's got 3 eyelashes. She doesn't really have... Oh, no, they do. They do have the slight... These things that they got on most of the Sailor Moon characters, like these. The cheek definition. There we go. Okay, ribbon. Even though the ribbon is like... It's to do with like the human crush that Luna has. It's not really like to do with Artemis, but I'm going to give it to her anyway just because it looks good. The second movie of Sailor Moon is weird. It's a very weird movie. It used to be my favorite back when I was a teenager, but rewatching the movies again, it's like, no, the first movie is so much better than the second one. Here we go. I found you through your High Guardian video, which was funny because I wanted videos on that because it felt like everyone was just saying the same things about it, but you were more interesting. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's why I also think I want to try and take that approach with Has-Been Hotel, because I do think that the discussion is a bit bogged down by drama and like, I don't know, like the implications of the show, if that makes any sense. I try not watch reviews, so I'm only aware of the discussion from like a distance, but I have a friend who really enjoys it, and she was telling me like issues, very vocal issues that a lot of people had with it, and like why they don't like it or why they do like it, and so little of it has to do with the show itself. So much of it has to do with like whatever personal I don't want to say baggage, but personal experiences that you have yourself that you bring with you while watching the show, which doesn't actually have anything to do with the show itself, right? That's not what the show itself is communicating, because she was saying how a lot of people who grew up in extremely religious households, they tend to like the show for X, Y, and Z reasons, and then there are people who really dislike the show because they might still be religious and stuff. And I'm like, yes, but none of that has anything to do with the show itself. That doesn't have to do with, is the show good? Is it well written? Is it well animated? Is it produced well? Is the artistry well done? are the characters written well? Like, that doesn't tell me anything about the quality of the product. That just tells me a lot about people's experiences that they are bringing with them while watching the show, or what makes the show appealing to them, which is a valid discussion. It's just not the one I think is I don't want to say interesting. It's not the discussion that I want to focus on, because as an animator, whatever part of animation I'm working on at the moment I'm working on ink and paint. That's not really what my focus is. My focus is on quality, right? And if the show or movie or TV show or game is not bringing up those discussions itself, then it kind of becomes a completely different discussion than the one I would like to have about the product. It's not to say it's a less valid discussion. It's just not the discussion that I think... It doesn't inform people like, yes, but what's the show like? I can hear what the show is dredging up in a lot of people, but what is the show itself like? And of course, there are some products, whether movie or TV show or cartoon, where it is impossible to separate that kind of thing from the product itself. Rip Luna's right eye. I think I'm actually going to ink Luna's face on top of Artemis's rather than to draw his, I think. No, it would make more sense to draw his face. No, because this ear is supposed to be at the back. So, yeah, I'll do Luna's face in the front. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But you know what I mean. It's I feel a lot of discussion around certain hot topic cartoons. That's kind of what it devolves into. Is all this personal morality talk, or personal experiences talk, or like couch psychology, which I do admit I kind of fall into the couch psychology trap a bit. But when I try, at least, even if I'm not super successful at it, I try and write my scripts about the couch psychology side of characters, more to do with how that character comes across to the audience, rather than to say, oh, this character is exhibiting behaviors of being a narcissist, and because narcissists are bad people, that means we should hate this character, like things like that. It's like, no. When I criticized Lois, for instance, Lois throwing herself off the building, my criticism is not actually with the fact that that's something Lois did. My criticism is that the show's narrative doesn't call her out on doing a terrible thing, which is a flaw of the writing. So it makes us dislike Lois because the show itself isn't addressing the fact that she's a terrible person. The show is obviously taking her side, even though she's the objectively wrong person in the situation, which makes watching it as an audience member extremely frustrating, because the vast majority of people are not going to side with Lois on that action. So the fact that Lois did something terrible, that's not why it's bad. What makes it bad is the way that the show handled the action. And that's why I used Ratatouille as an example, because what Remy does in Ratatouille to basically betray Linguini, it's not as bad as throwing yourself off a building per se, but it's a horrible thing that he does, but the movie presents it as a horrible thing. And then the not the rest of the movie, but a good chunk of the movie after that is Remy having to face the consequences of that bad action. And that's just not what happens in My Adventures with Superman, because as far as My Adventures with Superman is concerned, Lois didn't do anything wrong. And that's why it's frustrating. Couch psychology is free and flowing. Real psychology is overpriced and inaccessible. And then we wondered why... Oh, I lost my train of thought. No, I get what you mean, yeah. When's My Adventures with Superman Part 3 coming out? I am going to start writing the script tomorrow, because I took a few days off. I tend to take a few days off after I publish a video, just so that I'm not completely working like constantly. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, but it's early in the morning, which sucks for me. But as soon as I'm done with that, because it should only be like half an hour, then I'm gonna come back and work on the script for part 3, and I'm gonna try my best to get all 4 of the last episodes into the final part, but I don't think it's realistic to expect that, because the final episode of season 1 alone has a lot to talk about. And as much as I think that Lois jumping off the building is like the main talking point of the show, but it's not, because there's something coming up in the next episodes which is so baffling and insane, and I don't understand why it was written that way at all, that I just know when I get to that part in the script, it's going to be like when I talked about Lois jumping off the building. It's going to be an entire section on its own, just trying to like dissect what the hell is going on here. Like, what on earth is the thought process for any of this, because it's so confusing as to why these decisions were made. And I don't know how many people have actually watched the show. That's why I'm not like saying what happens, because I don't know how many people wait for my videos to find out what happens in the show, and how many people watch it beforehand, and how many people just don't care about spoilers. But it's just, the things that happen later on in the show is just baffling to me, and I don't understand why it was done that way at all. Good luck for the doctors. Thank you. It's nice to see someone who believes in objectivity that isn't stuck too deep in the anti-woke brain rot. I have to say it that way. Anti-woke. Someone who can say this is bad without going off on political tangents. That's the thing, right? And that's what I was looking for with High Guardian Spice, because I was interested, is the show good or not? Why is the show so bad? Why is everybody so angry at the show being bad? And whenever I tried to find that answer, it was just a bunch of people devolving, I guess is the word, into political tangents. And I'm like, yes, but that doesn't tell me why the show is good or bad. You know? Sometimes a country, or I guess country is the best word to put it. Sometimes a culture that is currently being run by an extremely bad political side, and I'm talking historically, I'm not talking modern, can still be an amazing product. There are some communist cartoons which were made in the 60s and 70s, which are gorgeous pieces of art. Somebody mentioned Stalker in my YouTube comments earlier today, and like all of that stuff that was made under like the communist regime, those are gorgeous pieces of art, regardless of what their commentary is on the political climate of Russia, because Stalker does have a lot of commentary on communism, as Andrei, I think it's Tartakovsky. Is it Tartakovsky, or is that, am I getting confused with Genndy Tartakovsky? Let me just double check, give me a sec. Andrei, is it, what is the man's name? That's another one for the, it is Tarkovsky, that's why I'm getting confused. It's Genndy Tartakovsky and it's Andrei Tarkovsky. So Stalker, even though it doesn't actually have anything to do with politics, it still has rumblings of political messaging within it. But that's not why it's a good movie. Stalker is not a good movie because of its themes of discussing communism and stuff. It's a good movie for being a good movie. Right? And I don't even know if the communist subtext that's in Stalker, I don't know if that was intended by Tarkovsky himself, or if that's just a reading people brought into it based on the book it was based on, Roadside Picnic. And if that was just something people projected onto the film itself, or if that was something that's within the text of the film, or if people just kind of assume that because Stalker is undoubtedly what caused the death of Andrei Tarkovsky a few years later. I'm not sure what he died of, but basically a lot of the locations in Stalker were highly toxic, like extremely toxic. So a lot of people working on Stalker, like a few years later, developed just awful health problems as a direct result of shooting that movie. Anyway, I am going off on a very confused, rambling tangents here. If I could like write down my thoughts, it would be a lot more structured. But I think you understand what I'm trying to say. Like, even if something was written in a bizarre political climate, you can still judge the piece of media removed from that political climate unless it is directly addressing it. Like, you can't talk about Animal Farm without talking about communism, because that's what the book's about. You know. That's what the book's about. You can't talk about Animal Farm and then be like, you know. Whereas, like, BioShock, the game, right? BioShock is so squarely rooted in the writings of Ayn Rand. But I think you can talk about BioShock without going into an extended rant about Ayn Rand's opinions on how politics and culture should be structured. You can have that discussion, but that's not something you have to do to talk about the plot of BioShock. Thank you for the super chat, Indigo. Disco Elysium is a piece of communist art that's actually bisexual art underneath. I need to play that. I've got it. I just need to sit down and actually play it. Like I said, I think I said earlier, playing video games is a bit tricky just because of the electricity being completely unreliable. It was supposed to go off at 6 o'clock, between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock today, and it just didn't. The power stayed on, and none of us can figure out why. I don't remember whether you mentioned you do this or not, but would you review Miraculous? I'm not sure, because I mentioned watching review videos for it, and everybody who had already seen Miraculous Ladybug had like they left comments on that community post that were just like, no, stay away, please. I'm such a big fan of this show and it's awful. Please save yourself. There's the super chat notification. Like, people who have been sticking with the show for years are like, no, don't get involved, please. Save yourself, run away, don't get sunk into this nonsense. So I don't know. It seems like a headache and a half. The political theming behind some choices are presented in a different viewpoint, geographically speaking. So any labels the game gives your choices should be taken with a grain of salt. Okay, interesting. I suppose it's like, because I don't know if Disco Elysium is made by a Eastern European studio, but I find like a lot of Eastern European games are like that, where they are not directly commenting on politics in any kind of way, but they do kind of vibe differently, simply because of the cultural atmosphere and the country's history of the people who made those games. What drives me nuts about governments is they're at the most paranoid when a work of art isn't political. Do you know that It's a Wonderful Life, the movie from 1945, that movie was almost blacklisted by the FBI for having communist undertones? Like, the reason they said that is there is one scene in It's a Wonderful Life where what's his name, like the bad guy in it, It's a Wonderful Life, I forget his name, Potter. Mr. Potter wants to evict, and I don't know if he wants to evict or if he doesn't want to sell land to the Italian community, because he wants that land to like build nightclubs on or something, if I remember correctly. And George says to Mr. Potter, these people have lived and died on this in this town, on this soil. They are the ones who have worked their entire lives to build money for their families and their children, and they deserve what they've worked for. And like, that's the scene that the FBI was like, oh dear, this is like communist sympathizing, we need to blacklist this movie. But they didn't, I think just because they decided not to. I don't know why. They might have decided it wasn't worth it, because It's a Wonderful Life, when it came out in theaters, it was a massive box office bomb. It really did not make any kind of cultural splash until it started airing as reruns on television. So even if the FBI did try to blacklist it, it wouldn't have stopped that movie becoming like super popular anyway, because it didn't get popular during its initial theater run, which is hilarious. It's just funny how that all works out. It's really, really interesting. Wasn't 1984 banned both for being communist and anti-communist? You know what? I wouldn't be surprised. Like, banned for being both pro and anti at the same at the same time. I'm gonna switch to the 8-point brush. I'm a little nervous because I'm talking about like what is political adjacent topics, and I know there's a very real chance that that can devolve into like arguments and chats and like people's different political opinions clashing and such. So I'm glad we can at least talk about it in terms of fiction and the discussion of fiction, because I think that's an interesting thing to talk about. And like How I Got Inspires and all these shows, people get so distracted by current political climates that they kind of start arguing about things which don't actually apply to the shows themselves. And I think if you allow yourself to fall into that trap, it becomes very easy to get, I don't want to use the word triggered, but to like hear that being the angle of conversation and getting distracted by talking about that topic, the topic of politics at large in the current world, when again I don't think that's my interest or area of interest when it comes to film that much, unless it's something that the film itself is actively bringing up. Like I said, like Animal Farm. There's no way to talk about Animal Farm without talking about communism. I haven't seen it, but there's no way to talk about Triumph of the Will without talking about the Third Reich. Things like that, you know? Because you can't, if something is overtly political, you also can't pretend it's not there, because that's kind of irresponsible in a way as well. To like, if a movie or show, a TV show is actively trying to push a political message and you just pretend it's not there, then you are also being irresponsible, unless you say, look, I know this has X and Y agenda, but that's not the discussion I want to have today. Got to work on an essay. Oh, thanks for dropping by, Halo. What's the music for the intro of your video essay reviews? I forget what it's called exactly. I do have the name of the person who made the music in the intro itself, because I realized if I use this person's copyright-free song in my intro, I shouldn't just mention it offhandedly in the credits of the video. I should probably put it at the beginning in the intro itself. And also because it kind of gives the aesthetic a little bit of being like an old school anime intro, which is kind of what I was going for. So to just have that one little piece of credit pop up, it kind of adds to the aesthetic in a weird way. Oops, it's too much. There we go. Gotta love that Raiders of the Lost Ark is Spielberg's big FU to the Third Reich. Yeah, kind of. But see, that's a movie you can talk about without having any political discussion about it whatsoever. Hilariously. Oh, that's what I was going... I think I mentioned it last time. Were we talking about static and proactive characters last time? Because I think I mentioned Indiana Jones as like a perfect example of a character that does not have a character arc. And like because a lot of people will be like, oh, this character doesn't go through any change throughout the story, therefore it's a bad story. And it's like Indiana Jones, the entire trilogy, does not go through a character arc. And by your logic then, Indiana Jones is a bad character and therefore those are bad movies. But I think we discussed that already. Sometimes I can't remember if something was discussed in a YouTube comment or if it was live. But I think that was a discussion last time. So I don't want to like repeat myself too much, otherwise it just gets boring to listen to. Just reminded me of how a lot of game companies say games like Call of Duty and Wolfenstein are not political. Yeah, so you can't really do that. I need another drink of water, actually. Hold on. My throat. Didn't you also have a whole ass list on Tumblr of good characters with 0 arcs? Yeah, I did. I'm not going to access it now because I'm busy drawing, but I did have a short list of characters that don't go through character arcs, from like really well regarded films and stories. Just because I got really tired of that being an argument of like, oh, well, this character doesn't go through a character arc, so it's a bad movie. And I'm like, have you seen To Kill a Mockingbird? Like, I'm pretty sure people are of the general opinion that To Kill a Mockingbird is a good story. I think you mentioned static characters last month, but it was a month ago. Yeah, it was a while ago, but also I don't want to repeat topics too much. So to change topic, Sue, another off-topic question. No, we need an off-topic question. We need to run away from politics as a discussion. Are there any other sci-fi you enjoy besides the likes of Mass Effect? Any recommendations? I watched for the first time, was it last weekend? I think I watched Macross, Do You Remember Love, the movie. And I was stunned by what a good piece of sci-fi that is, because it's one of those films where everybody tells you it's a brilliant movie, it's one of the most important movies in anime history, it changed the face of anime, it's extremely important, etc, etc. It's one of the best animated movies of the 80s. So I watched it with all that expectation, but what I wasn't expecting was the fact that it's actually just a really good piece of sci-fi media. Like the story and plot of Macross, Do You Remember Love? It's just a really interesting sci-fi concept. Like the entire plot and the world building, it's just really fascinating as sci-fi. Like I can see Macross, Do You Remember Love being a sci-fi novel from like the 70s or 60s and would be perfectly in place of like Western sci-fi novels from around that time in terms of what it talks about and stuff. It's really good. It's really, really well done. I highly enjoyed that. Somebody said I should watch the original Macross TV show because Macross, Do You Remember Love is a movie that condenses the entire original Macross TV show into one 2.5 hour long movie. And I only found that out after I had seen the film. I could not tell that the movie was a condensed TV series. Because sometimes you can tell, right? Sometimes you can tell, oh, this movie is like the cliff notes of an entire TV show. Like the Avatar movie. But Macross, Do You Remember Love feels like a complete story. And somebody said I should watch the original anime just to kind of have that historical context because it's so important to anime history. But I saw reviews of Do You Remember Love where people said the thing is the movie Do You Remember Love cuts away a lot of I don't want to say filler because I'm one of those people. I feel a filler in an anime show is actually a good thing because it allows your characters to have character arcs and character moments and things like that. But there's a lot of the original Macross show which feels like it's dragging its heels a little bit. Or it's going off on its own tangent where it doesn't actually have anything to do with what the story is. So you're kind of just sitting around waiting for it to get back on track. But the original anime also has characters and character arcs which are just completely absent in the movie just because they didn't have time in the movie to include it. So I might check it out, but what happened is I wanted to watch Macross 7 because I like the music. And I was like, I know that Do You Remember Love is the one that everybody says is the best. It's the cornerstone. It's what you should start with. But I want to watch Macross 7 because I like the music. And in the very first episode of Macross 7, there's a scene where the main character does something and then all the characters, the like people who run the battleship are like, is he trying to be like Lin Min Mei from Macross Do You Remember Love? And I'm like, good lord, okay, I'll watch the movie already. I can't even watch Macross 7 without Macross 7 directly mentioning the movie in the first episode. And I'm like, fine, I'll watch it. But it ended up being an extremely gorgeous piece of filmmaking and an extremely interesting sci-fi story. So it's not like I was sorry I watched it. Macross 7 is very divisive, I will warn you now. Well, I'm going in with like zero expectation other than I've seen Macross Do You Remember Love, I liked it, and I like the music in Macross 7. That's my only baggage coming into it. Speaking of the Avatar movie, the Netflix remake is out. Oof. I was in somebody's live stream, somebody that has nothing to do with animation, and he mentioned, oh, the live action Avatar is coming out soon. And all I said in the chat was, why do you hate animation? And he saw it and he's like, oh no, I don't hate animation. No, I don't hate animation. His reasons was that he finds it's difficult to recommend the original Avatar to like his adult friends, because in his opinion, it takes a while for the Avatar cartoon to kind of get going and get to the interesting bits that are mostly in season 2 and 3. And although I disagree, I do kind of understand what he means. And he says he's hoping that the live action TV series will have its pacing sorted out in a different way, which will make it a little easier for him to tell his other adult friends, hey, you should watch this show. So I can concede that, okay, I guess that's a valid reason, but at the same Seapuff hates animation. But at the same time, I'm like, why are we making live action shows of cartoons? Like, why don't people just watch the cartoon? I don't understand this like absolute aversion that some people have for animation. I was watching a reaction channel that were watching Avatar the cartoon for the very first time, and they loved it. These 4 guys absolutely loved the cartoon series. And then, like, during one of the season climaxes, when I think it's in the first season, when they're fighting with the moon spirit thing going on and, like, the giant Mononoke monster and all of that, one of the guys says, oh, man, can you imagine what this would look like in live action? And I'm like, why? Why is that where your mind goes? Who cares? It's not in live action. Get over it. Yeah, but I didn't want to say the channel name, Ransock, because I don't want to call them out and be like, these guys are to blame. But no, it drove me crazy. It's like, why? Why is that your initial thought? Is like, oh man, this would look so cool in live action. It's like, well, it's not in live action, is it? And that's why I decided every single time I like something, I should be like, oh man, can you imagine what this would look like if it's animated? Oh dude, the Barbie movie was so good. Can you imagine if the Barbie movie was animated? Oh, that would be so good. I'm just gonna do that from now. Oh, Oppenheimer? Oppenheimer was such a good movie, guys. Oh, can you imagine like that scene in animation? Oh, it'd be so cool. Oh man, I really hope they do like an animated TV show of Oppenheimer, because I think that... Oh no, they did. It's called Barefoot Gen. Never mind. That exists. But yeah, you get my meaning. Stop motion Barbie would be good though. Yeah, it'd be like the most popular girls at school, but Barbie. I like the Barbie movie. Not for like, again, not for like, oh, it aligns with my views on feminism. No, that's not why I like the Barbie movie. I like the Barbie movie because it was a well-made movie that was well written, was funny, and did that balance very well of being both a comedy as well as something that really hits the emotional notes very, very well. So you really run the gambit of emotions watching that movie. And it's talk, like the talk that America Ferrera gives regarding, oh, it's so hard being a woman. I like that talk, but that's not why I liked the movie. I liked the movie because it was a well-written movie. Well, there is a lot of AI that reimagines the movies as 90s anime. Yeah, but nobody made those. Those weren't drawn by anyone. It's not art. It's just like generated slop, basically. So it doesn't count. Try watching The Last Emperor. I've not seen The Last Emperor. I need to watch it. I think it'll be very difficult to watch, but I do want to see it. But I feel I should watch a documentary on Emperor. It's Ping. Is it Ping? Is it Emperor Ping? What was the man's name? Let me just double check before I insult somebody. China Emperor. Somebody in chat's probably gonna correct me before I get it right here. Ping of Han. Oh no, that's somebody else. Ping of Han is from like 9 BC. So that's not the one I'm thinking of. Oh well, I'm not gonna waste too much time here. I've got to get back to drawing. I'm getting distracted. There were a few Emperor pings, I think. Yeah, I think I'm getting distracted because I was listening to a podcast about Chinese history, and I think that's where I got the name Ping from. I don't think that's the last emperor, though. I saw somebody tag me. Oh, that was the 90s question thing. By the way, CPUF, have you seen the latest OpenAI video of blah 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 video? No, I'm not interested. I just stay away from that kind of stuff. I don't really like talking about it because I'm like, it just makes me tired. It makes me tired, and I'm like, ugh. You know, you're speaking to a 2D animator. You're not even speaking to a CG animator. You're talking to a 2D animator. I have like zero interest in that kind of thing. I'm still mad that Barbie made more money than Super Mario Bros. I need to watch the Super Mario Brothers movie. For some reason, it just slipped by me. And my country, I mean, the first Nintendo console we ever got was the Wii. My country didn't get the NES, we didn't get the SNES, we didn't get the GameCube. I think we got Game Boys. I had a Game Boy Color growing up, so I know we had that, but Nintendo doesn't really have a presence in my country that much. So the Mario movie was kind of just an animated movie that came and went. Here, it wasn't like a big event or anything, whereas the Barbie movie was a big event here. Like, I had some family members who are teenagers. They like dressed up in pink to go watch Barbie, right? Nobody was doing that kind of thing for the Mario movie here, just because it's not really a thing here. My country is more focused on PlayStation and PC games, especially PC games. As a member of AuthorTube, I had a delightful chat with a YouTuber about what cozy fantasy is as a genre. My first thought, even though I have not read it yet, I know that there is a fantasy novel where an orc, I think she retires from being a barbarian and she opens a coffee shop. It's an entire novel just about this orc, a female orc, opening a coffee shop. And that's the plot. And that is like my first thought when you say the word cozy fantasy. Like, that's what I think of. It's like something like that. Does South Africa produce any games? Not that I know of. I did work on a game at a game studio here for a little while, but unfortunately it kind of fell through, not because of anything the studio did, but because of who the client was. That was the main part of the chat, what the chat was about. The book is titled Legends and Lattes. Yes. I haven't read it, but I am aware of it. I know that lots of people like it. And I do like that that's a genre that exists. I've been watching, I don't think it counts as cozy fantasy, but I've been watching Dungeon Meshi, and I'm really enjoying that so far. I really like Dungeon Meshi. The thing is, Dungeon Meshi actually has like a fantasy plot going on, and there's like actual things happening. So even though cooking and food is a large focus of the anime, I don't think I would count it as cozy fantasy because they are still dungeon diving in that show and fighting monsters and being in mortal peril and things, so I don't think that counts. Dungeon Meshi is really sad to watch though, because you see these amazing this amazing food that you want to eat and you can't because the ingredients don't exist. That's the only bad thing about Dungeon Meshi. It'll have these dishes and you'll be like, oh, I want to eat that so bad, but it's like, it's made from some other fantasy creature which has no real world equivalent whatsoever. But it's good. If you haven't watched Dungeon Meshi, I actually do recommend it. I know everybody is probably watching that right now, but it really is that good. I'm still in the process of writing my own fantasy story, but it's decidedly not very cozy. Imagine Game of Thrones mixed with the Napoleonic Wars. That's my pitch. Actually, that's a good pitch. Like, that would get me interested. I still need to watch, I don't know if it was EFAP themselves, but I saw that Fringy and Rags did like an entire podcast discussion video about historical accuracy in films, and they were mainly talking about the Ridley Scott Napoleon movie. I need to listen to that still, because I think that, because I'm also a giant history nerd, right? So I think that's a very interesting discussion as well. Not enough people do Napoleonic stuff. Yeah, it's a really interesting situation, so we say. I don't want to say it's an interesting period of history, because it's not so much the period of history that's interesting. It is specifically Napoleon and what everything revolving around him was doing. It wasn't so much the period of time, it was the direct person and his impact on the world that's interesting. I still need to watch, I said it last time, I think, I need to watch Waterloo. It's on YouTube. I can't link it because I don't think it's on YouTube legally. But it's up on YouTube, and I need to watch that. It's just 3 hours long. That's why I haven't gotten around to it yet. The only reason I watched Macross, Do You Remember Love, is because I didn't realize it was 2.5 hours when I sat down to start watching it. And by the time I realized, wow, how much time has gone by, I had like 40 minutes left. So I was like, oh shit, this is a very long movie, and I didn't realize it. Otherwise, I might have been more cautious of just sitting down and watching it. It was worth it though, I did like it, but yeah, oof. There's a bunch of Kurosawa movies I haven't watched yet, just because they're 3 hours long. And yet, I've watched the extended cut of Lord of the Rings like multiple times. But I think because if you've already seen a movie, it's easier to sit down and rewatch it, even though it's like 4 hours long. It's very hard to sit down and watch something for the first time if it's like 3 hours long. I mean, I can do it, but obviously some movies are easier to watch than others. I watched, that one is up on YouTube. Let me actually get it. Dersu Uzala, I think is, Dersu Uzala. I think it's 3 hours long. Let me just check. Oh, no, it's not. It's 2 hours and 21 minutes. Okay. Because when Moss Films debuted that on YouTube, I watched the premiere of that. And that wasn't so bad to sit through. But I see it's not 3 hours long, so that's probably why. It's rather surprising because it's a Kurosawa film, so I thought it was like 3 hours long. Seen the video going over the inaccuracies about it, but was mostly interested hearing about how it turned him socially bad and winning war for his girlfriend. Is that true though? See, that's the thing. I'm gonna have to like delve deep into Napoleon as a historical figure, especially if I want to watch Waterloo. See, this is the problem. This is why my videos take so long, because I'm like, oh, I want to watch this movie. I better watch 5 documentaries before watching the movie so I can understand what the movie is about. And I do that when I make videos as well. It's like, oh, I'm gonna make a video about my adventures with Superman. I better watch the 1970 whatever, I can't remember, 1978 I think, Superman movie for context. I better watch the Justice League cartoon for context. And I like end up watching like so many hours of extra content just to make sure that I understand what I'm talking about. And I'm like that with like the Napoleon thing again. It's like, well, I don't know enough about that, so I need to watch all these documentaries to understand what the movie's about. I think that's like a symptom of overthinking to a certain degree, I think. Because even though it's not overthinking, it kind of follows the same pattern, I think. Because like, oh, to do this, I need to do this. And I need to do this and this and this to get started. So I think it kind of falls into the same behavioral pattern, maybe, I guess. There was a PBS Napoleon documentary that came out in 2000s that's really good. That is made just like a Ken Burns doc. Oh, see, that's how you get my attention. If you say it's like a Ken Burns documentary, then I'm absolutely going to check that out. For the 1930s animation video I did, I watched Ken Burns' documentary on jazz. And that's fascinating. It's such a good documentary. So yeah, I'm a big fan of, well, I don't know about big fan because I haven't seen that much of his work, but what I have seen of Ken Burns, I really like his work. Okay, inking done, let's get to coloring. Okay, she's a little too purple here, so I'm going to take her colors from this screenshot, which I think is more in line with what her colors actually are. Because in this screenshot, it's the sun's coming up, so it's a sunrise scene. And it's like supposed to be like a really shoujo scene, so I think the colors from the other screenshot is more accurate. I didn't realize she was that purple. I thought she was far darker. Let me check. Season 1. Do I have any screenshots of Luna from season 1? I mean, I've got this one. Now let me grab this because this is closer to... Yes, that's more what I'm used to. Oops. Have you heard of Peter Watkins? He makes faux documentaries on a whole bunch of different subjects. Really interesting and underrated filmmaker. I know the name, but I'm not sure why I know the name. I recognize it though. Maybe I've heard or seen one of the documentaries you're talking about. Because the name is really, really, really familiar to me, but I can't place it. Master and Commander, which isn't about Napoleon, but is about the lengths the English Navy would go to fight him. I need to rewatch Master and Commander. I watched it a long time ago. I have watched History Buff's video on it, which is very funny, because he's like, listen, this movie isn't actually about an actual historical event, but it is also loved by historians because it is one of the most historically accurate naval battle movies ever made. So even though it's not actually about anyone that really existed or an event that really existed, it just captures that time period so accurately. So we're going to talk about it even though it isn't in any way, shape or form historically accurate. Do this. What did I miss? Not much. We are drawing Artemis and Luna. Where is the gap? Oh, it's probably here. And GPN. Speaking about how in-depth you get, made me wonder if you've seen The Thief and the Cobbler, one of the most in-depth and thorough pieces of work possible ever. I have. I've seen the recobbled cut, but I saw an earlier cut of it. If I remember correctly, there's an updated cut of The Thief and the Cobbler. I think it's on YouTube. I'll have to look. But I do know there's been an update to the recobbled cut. I need to just double check what's changed, but I have seen the recobbled cut, so I am familiar with it. They didn't make us watch The Thief and the Cobbler in animation college, but they did make us watch the War Machine sequence. They made us watch the recobbled cut version of the War Machine sequence, and then they made us watch the hack job release of what they had turned that scene into. And I remember I lied to the lecturer. I am going to make her this lighter color, actually. I lied to the lecturer when they showed us the dub version of the War Machine sequence, just because I'd already seen it and I was very familiar with the recobbled cut, and I did not want to sit there and cringe in my seat having to see the hack job that was released. So I lied to the lecturer that I needed to go to the bathroom, and then I just waited outside the door until they were done showing the dub version of of that sequence, just because I really didn't want to experience it again because it's so bad. It's on YouTube? Yeah, I know it's on YouTube. Another movie that's on YouTube, again, I don't know how legally, but the Raggedy Ann and Andy movie is on YouTube as well. Which is another Richard Williams movie, if you're unaware. Let's take Turnip, make it this one. Discovered the recobbled cut as early as 2006 when Gilchrist uploaded it, which was back when Google Video was a thing. Yeah, that's about the time I saw it as well. That's why I'm thinking it's probably had an update since then. And I do think I saw that there's like a 4K release of the recobbled cut now, because they managed to like film scan it or something. Because a lot of the material in the recobbled cut, they had to go to actual animators who worked on it, and some of the animatic artists, and like get the material from them to try and put together the movie. You know what's also on YouTube? Nimona. That is right. Nimona is currently up on YouTube for everybody to watch with subtitles for free as part of Netflix's Oscar campaign. But it's only going to be on YouTube for a very short amount of time. I'm not sure when they're taking it down. Let me double check while I'm doing that promotion. Hashtag not sponsored. Because not a lot of people are telling people that it's not on YouTube permanently. It's only for a short while. Oh, it's up on YouTube until tomorrow. So, I don't know if it's my tomorrow or your tomorrow. I think it's all of our tomorrows. Nimona is only going to be up on YouTube until tomorrow as part of Netflix's Oscar campaign. So if you haven't seen it, you can watch it on YouTube right now. Or rather, when my stream is over, you can go watch it. Have I ever seen the Raggedy Ann short by Max Fleischer? I have not. I'll have to look that up. That won't be on the YouTube page of the Fleischers, because I imagine the copyright is still being held by the toy company that owns Raggedy Ann and Andy. So I don't think it'll be on their channel. I'll have to go look for it somewhere else. Because the Fleischers, by the way, they do have their own YouTube channel, but they can only upload... I made this line wrong. They can only upload content that they hold copyright over themselves, which is most of the Betty Boop stuff. But they can't upload like the Popeye stuff, because obviously that is not... The Fleischer family does not own copyright of Popeye. But they have all the Betty Boops and things like that, just like on their channel for free. Tomorrow comes for all. You know what I mean. What's my opinion of Nimona? I have to sit down and watch it properly. I've seen little snippets of it and such, but I need to sit down and actually give it my full attention. Oh, I'm in the wrong layer. Okay, let's lock that layer so I don't make that mistake again. Because my thing is, right, I watch a lot of YouTube, but the reason why is because when I'm watching a movie or TV show, I want to sit and pay attention to what I'm watching. But I watch a lot of YouTube because I can put a YouTube video on while I'm doing something else. So I can listen to YouTube while I'm working, whether it's for the studio or whether it's for something for the channel, or if I'm cooking, if I'm doing anything, I can have YouTube running. But if I want to actually watch a movie or TV show, I want to see and I want to sit down and actually pay attention. So I can't do that while I'm working or drawing or doing other things, because then I'm not paying attention to what's happening on screen. And that's why it takes me a while to get to things, because I need to make time to just sit and watch the screen with intent. There we go. I'm just gonna fill in some of these. Oh, it's too big. I watched it on UCLA's YouTube channel. Is this the recobbled cut, or what are you talking about? Oh, the Raggedy Ann and Andy short. Okay, now I'll check that out, because I don't want to see that. Oh, I'm interested in seeing that. Do you have a favorite South African movie? I'd love to see more. Already love Dust Devil and There's a Zulu on My Stoop. I'm not super familiar with a lot of South African filmmaking, aside from My Octopus Teacher, which is a South African film. So that's one I can recommend, at least. Okay, now let's give them some shading. Let's lock this as well before I color on the wrong layer, as I'm wont to do. Push that up. There we go. It's all coming together. But yeah, no, I'm not super... I don't want to say I'm not super familiar with South African films. It's just... I'm trying to think about our film landscape. I know that there are quite a few Afrikaans movies out there that are made for like Kyknet and stuff, but they don't particularly interest me, because the Afrikaans population is quite conservative, not in the same way Americans are, but they're conservative in that it's traditional family values and religion, right? So a lot of Afrikaans movies are very much like Hallmark movies, if I can put it that way, which just simply don't interest me. And I don't know, it's just not a scene, really. I know that Triggerfish is an animation studio here, and they make very good work. But I don't know, like, I'm more interested in films from other countries, I must say. And I don't know if that, like, reflects badly on me as an animator living in South Africa, but I think it's just a personality thing. Where the filmmaking style that exists in South Africa is just not one that personally appeals to me, I guess is the best way to put it. It's not specifically cultural, except, like I said, the Afrikaans movies, they tend to be a lot like Hallmark movies, and as such I don't find them particularly interesting, because a lot of it is like romance focused and things like that, and it's just it's not my area of interest whatsoever. But just the style of filmmaking is not my favorite. But like I said, I did like My Octopus Teacher quite a lot, because that documentary wasn't particularly made with that in mind. That documentary was made by a filmmaker who is a photographer. So the visuals of that movie are more from the perspective of a photographer, if that makes sense. It's difficult to say, because like I'm trying not to insult my own country and my own country's filmmaking, but also because it's not where my interest lies, my experience with it is also not as broad as it could be. So I'm trying not to like put down the country, while at the same time not making myself seem as just willfully ignorant at the same time. Did I finish Hot Catch Pretty Cure? No, not yet. I need to get back to it. I got distracted by... What was I watching? I was watching something extremely specific. And that's why I stopped watching Hot Catch Precure. Because, again, I watch things that I actually have to pay attention to when I'm not doing anything else. I forget what it was. There was something extremely specific that made me go, oh, I want to finish this before I get back to Hot Catch. And I'm completely blanking on what it was. It wasn't Dungeon Meshi, because this was quite a while ago. I'm not sure. I'll have to think. There was something specific there. The only South African movies I've heard of are District 9 and Chappie. See, that's the other thing. I really didn't like Chappie. Like, I did not like Chappie at all. It's a bad movie. I'm sorry. I don't know if people like actually like that movie or not, but it's a bad movie. And especially for From Here, like a lot of the way that the people talk in that movie are painful to listen to, because it's just like, oh no, please. I can't with the way these characters talk and the way that they construct sentences. It's just bad. I hate it. Especially like the robot himself, like Chappie himself. The way he speaks sounds identical to a grown man talking the way a grown man thinks a child talks. It's not even a grown man talking like a child. It's a grown man talking the way a grown man thinks a child talks. And then you throw in like the very specific Afrikaans and South African way that he does it. Even though he's speaking English, it is very Afrikaans, like his accent and stuff. And I just cringe so hard watching it. I'm like, no. I would rather watch Blade Runner. What is this? Fairly Odd Parents is getting rebooted again. And I'm pretty sure Butch Hartman will have a big hand in it, which is an awful thing to think about in my opinion. Okay, guys, we need to know. Actually, I can do polls now. I saw this. Let's do a poll just because I can, and I've never done it before. What is worse? What's worse? A live action Avatar remake or a fairly Odd Parents remake with Butch Hartman? This one Butch or... There we go. There! Yay! I've never done a poll before. And no sweat sleep up. I am not loyal to Canadian cinema, in part because it hinges so heavily on government funding and therefore takes on a Pandora's box of issues I can't summarize here. Yeah, South Africa has a similar problem. Again, not to get too big into politics, but my octopus teacher won an Oscar for Best Documentary. It wasn't even nominated for a single award in this country. And the reason why is also politics. It's really frustrating. Okay, which blender? I think I want the textured blender because it's fur. But let's see. If I don't like it, I'll just go back to the regular blender. Yeah, I think that's quite nice. I think I'll stick to that. If I could make a recommendation, if you happen to like Brit comedy, I suggest Tom Bates' channel. He does these short animated videos that he animates and voices on his own. Fun stuff. Let me just type that in, otherwise I'm going to forget the name. Because I do actually like British comedy, but I must say I like older British comedy. I'm not the biggest fan of current British comedy because I don't know what went wrong. I don't know if they took too much inspiration from American comedy, and I'm not sure when that started happening, because I feel like it was around the 2000s. British comedy started becoming more and more, I don't know, like obvious in its comedy, whereas before then, British comedy was a lot more tongue-in-cheek. It was a lot more straight-faced and sarcastic, and at some point it became a lot more broad and like cartoonish, and I'm not sure when that happened. And let me just grab this person's name. Make it Tom Bates. Let me type that in. I'll check that out after the stream. Make this smaller. Most movies from outside SA about it seem to be political dramas about, you know, yeah. But like I said, the South African films themselves, they just don't interest me that much. I think that it's not that deep. Like, that's the long and short of it. It's just, I don't find that they don't interest me. Awkward comedy? Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. It's not entirely awkward. Because I'm thinking like the comedy in Doctor Who to a certain degree, although Doctor Who isn't a comedy series. When Doctor Who does do comedy, it is so much more obvious than a lot of British comedy was that I grew up on, because obviously the British comedy would be things that my parents would watch. So it would be things from the 70s and 60s. Like Fawlty Towers and things like that. And when you watch that comedy, even things like Red Dwarf, which is the 80s, like the style of comedy going on there is so much different in tone compared to what you see these days. And even Good Omens, and I did like Good Omens. don't lynch me. I did like Good Omens quite a lot. But I did find even the comedy in Good Omens had that like awkward, broad, overblown comedy to it. It wasn't as tongue-in-cheek, sarcastic as earlier British comedy. So it's not so much something to do with the Doctor Who writers. I think it's just something to do with how British comedy is written these days. And again, I don't know when that change happened, because it's not an old comedy, but I quite liked the comedy series My Family. And My Family doesn't have that problem. My Family is just really funny, but it's got that almost classic British comediness where it's really sarcastic. And that's what I like about it. And that just doesn't seem to be the focus these days. And I don't know if it's because with Doctor Who, right? Yes, you could be like, oh, it's because of Stephen Moffat, it's because of the way the show started getting written, but I can't help but wonder if it might have to do with the fact that a lot of Americans watched Doctor Who when it was revived, just as a lot of Americans watched the BBC Sherlock series. And I don't know if it might be because they try to make the writing more appealing towards Americans, which happens sometimes. But I'm not sure if that's the case. I'm not entirely sure if that problem existed before the popularity with the Americans came, or if it is a symptom of it. I'm not sure. That's something I should look into. Like, when exactly did that problem, for lack of a better word, start? Like, that shift in tone, I guess is the right word. Doctor Who did comedy so well, and the style of it constantly changed depending on who the Doctor was. Oh, absolutely. I'm talking specifically about the revival series of Doctor Who. I'm not talking about the classic Doctor Who. Because, like, one of the classic series of Doctor Who that I still need to watch as well, but it was written by Douglas Adams. And, like, I'm not sure which Doctor it was, but the sheer fact that it was written by Douglas Adams, I know what Douglas Adams' writing style is like. I know what his style of comedy is like. And the way Douglas Adams writes comedy is not the style of comedy you see in current BBC comedy series. It's just not. That's not the style. And yet, the live-action Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie, that is perfectly in line with modern British comedy style, and that's probably why I didn't like the movie that much. Aside from some other factors that really bothered me about the movie. One being, which is entirely like me, it's a me problem, it's not actually a problem with the movie, but I didn't like the way they did Ford Prefect, because Ford Prefect's my favorite character in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I didn't like the way they portrayed that character at all. The way they wrote him and made him interact with Arthur Dent was just very odd to me. And I don't know if casting Ford Prefect with a black actor instead of the way he's portrayed in the book bothered me. It might have, just because you have like a mental image of what a character looks like in your head, right? And Ford Prefect's character description was very specifically, he had a shock of red hair. And so that's like the mental image I had. So probably casting a black actor did throw me off a little bit, not specifically because of race, but because of, you know, it's like when the Harry Potter movie came out. Everybody had like a mental image of what certain characters looked like. And then the movie came out and people were like, that's not what Harry looks like. That's not what Hagrid looks like. It's more that than anything else. But that's a me problem. Whereas the main reason I disliked Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is because I did not like the way that they interpreted a lot of the humor from the book. I just felt that is not in line with the book. And it's because I've listened to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy radio drama, which was made before the books. And my favorite thing is there exists a recording of Douglas Adams doing an audiobook of his own work. And listening to Douglas Adams reading his own novels, you perfectly understand how he delivered certain jokes, like how he wanted certain lines of dialogue to be delivered. And it's just not in the way that it was present in the movie. Wasn't he described as pale? I think so. But it was less that. It was more that he has really, really, really blue eyes. He has a shock of red hair. And the only indication that he's an alien and he's not human is that when he smiles, it's just a little bit too wide. And he has a tendency to never blink. And I remember this line in the book quite clearly. He never blinked, which made when people spoke to him, it would make their eyes water in sympathy, just because the man never blinks while he's talking to you. But yeah, it was more like the shock of red hair. The fact that he basically was a Doctor Who character, if I think about it. Like, Ford Prefect is essentially a doctor. He could have been. And the fact that he had this shock of red hair, because I think, if I remember correctly, because it's been a while, but when people wondered why he was so strange, there would be like some, oh, he's from Ireland, he's from the north. There would be some excuse like that And then everybody would just be like, oh, okay, because that apparently explained it. And also, I really hated how they did Zaphod Beeblebrox in the movie. It's just, no, absolutely not. And I know why, because in the books, Zaphod Beeblebrox, he's supposed to have 2 heads, and I think he has 3 arms. But in the movie, they like hid his second head underneath a scarf that he carries around his neck. And I'm like, but why though? And I know why. It's because there was initially plans to do Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy stage play. And that's how they were thinking of portraying Zaphod in a stage play. And I'm like, yes, but this is a movie. It's not a stage play. Why did you do it this way? So I didn't like how they did Zaphod. I didn't like how they did Ford Prefect. Just a lot of that movie, I was just like, no. The style of comedy was off to me. However, the opening song, So Long and Thanks for the Fish, that song is glorious. Like, that entire movie's existence is justified just for the opening sequence and the music. I like Jodie Whittaker's run a lot. I've seen the newer I haven't seen the newer Tenant specials or the current TV series yet. I hear that the current one is quite popular. Like, I'm seeing really positive opinions online regarding the current series. I forget the actor playing the Doctor currently, but he was actually in the Barbie movie. He's the guy who Ken throws the faux mink coat to. And then he puts it on and he turns around and he goes, we were only fighting because we didn't know who we were. Like, that actor is who's playing the Doctor now, if I remember correctly. I had textured blender. It was this one. I've recently rewatched Butch Hartman's Crash Nebula pilot. And it wasn't good, but every other pilot he did was worse. Let me actually end the poll. End poll. So 66% of people said that a Fairly Odd Parents reboot with Butch Hartman involved is worse than a live-action Avatar show. So 66 said Butch Hartman is worse, and 33% said Avatar live-action was worse. And I think I'm inclined to agree. I think Butch Hartman leading a Fairly Odd Parents reboot, oof. At least it'll give us, like, good YouTube content, right? Because there's a lot of, like, YouTubers who really liked the Fairly Odd Parents cartoon when it was airing. And it'd be fun to watch them talk about a terrible Fairly Odd Parents reboot. Like, that'd be very entertaining to listen to while I'm doing other things. So at least there's that. I have that to look forward to. Is the live-action Atlas as bad as it seems? I don't know. And again, I would say, oh, I'll check it out and see what I think about it, but I would have to not do anything else while I watch it, and then I'm like, well, is it worth the time to do that? Or would I rather use that time to watch more Macross stuff, or start Freyden at last, or watch more Kamen Rider Kuga? Like, there's so many other things I would rather watch than the live-action Avatar show. I'm going to use the eraser, and I'm just going to erase a bit around the jawline, because it's quite sharp here, and I don't like how sharp that is. Am I doing this right? Brush density 70. It should be right. Oh, it's because I haven't got it selected. There we go. There we go. That's better. It's better than the Shyamalan movie, at least. I mean, it's not hard to be better than the Shyamalan movie. Let's all be honest. Although, that's an interesting question. Is the live-action Avatar TV show, if it is bad, and I don't know if it is, but if it is bad, would it be less entertaining than the Shyamalan movie? Because the Shyamalan movie is garbage, but there are certain moments in the Shyamalan movie that are unintentional comedy gold. Me and my friend were just talking about this. The scene where the rock very, very slowly floats across screen after they do this entire Tai Chi routine, that is hilarious. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But see, it's also difficult because I like Avatar: The Last Airbender, but it's not a show that like has personal meaning to me specifically. But I imagine if you're like somebody where Avatar: The Last Airbender was really important to you emotionally. Oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I should be color picking the actual color from her ear here. If the Avatar cartoon really meant a lot to you as a person, I imagine it's a lot harder to find joy in something being terrible of it. Like a bad adaptation of it is probably a lot harder to have fun with because you're just watching like your childhood get stomped on, which is hard, right? It's very difficult to find joy in something if it's just actively destroying something you love. Because there are things where people would be like, oh, watch this adaptation of this thing you love, it's very funny. And I'd be like, I can't do that because I don't want to watch the thing I love get absolutely dunked on in front of me. It's too painful to watch. So I imagine it's similar if Avatar: The Last Airbender really meant something to you. It's difficult to then watch something, even if it's just for fun, because it's just pain to a certain degree. Oh, I should save. If you're drawing as well, you need to save your work. I inked a very intricate picture yesterday and my computer froze and I had to restart. And I had just finished the line work of the image. And then when I restarted my computer, Clip Studio Painter's autosave function didn't kick in. So I had to redo the line art from scratch. It was not a fun time. You need butch context? Oh, look up on YouTube. Some people have spoken about some of the things that Butch Hartman has done. Not even said, just done. Like the things that the man has done. It's not good. And his content itself has really fallen short in the past few years. That's a bit too shocking. I should probably make it like really light because he's got white fur. So any color I put on it is really going to pop. And then because it's only 10 o'clock, I'm going to color the line art as well. Pain. I've done that so many times. I use GIMP, which doesn't have an autosave function, and my work computer is a mess. It was so painful because I'm taking a bit of a social media break. Not like a dramatic... Oops, I did not mean to do that. Oh no, I closed my window that shows my layers. Hold on. I'm taking a bit of a social media break. And... what was I going to say? And as such, I'm drawing some things that are kind of just... I guess for me, but things that I'm not too concerned about. Is it going to get views? Will it appeal to the people following me on Tumblr and all that? It's just something I'm drawing because I want to and I have the opportunity since I'm taking a bit of a break from social media. Sorry, I had a hiccup. So I'm drawing a picture of Zentreya, who's a VTuber I really enjoy. I really, really like her content a lot. And Zentreya has like a cyberpunk design to her model. So I was drawing like all those little cyberpunk details and I was inking it, and I had just finished inking her outfit and then my computer crashed. Actually, here, let me show you guys. She has really big anime titties, so just excuse that. Apparently, I heard what happened was when she had her first model, because she uses VR chat, the person who made her model had a miscommunication with her and gave her like massive anime titties. And it just became an in-joke with her chat. That's why she never made them smaller. So just be aware of that. But see, I was drawing this line art here, and I think I had saved just her face, but all of this I had to redo from scratch just because my computer froze. It was a nightmare. It was not fun. It took so long. Let me close her again. Like Lara Croft's first model. You know what's interesting about Lara Croft's first model, right? Because people always like to joke, haha, she has square boot miscommunication. That's what she said! I'll trust her word until I see evidence to the contrary. But anyway, no chopstick legs? Nah, not this time. But what happened with Lara Croft, right, is everybody jokes about the fact that, haha, she has square boobies in the first game. Do you know why? It's because they were sacrificing polygons because you only see her from behind when you play the game. So they wanted to make her ass, like, really good looking. So they sacrificed her boob polygons to make a really good looking, like, ass. And that's why they look like that. But yeah, Zentreya said that her modeler she had a miscommunication with her modeler. I don't know if that's the truth, but I'm going to believe her, if only because that's funny. I want that to be the truth, because if it is, that's hilarious. I might have to use a slightly dark... Oh no, I don't need to use a slightly darker purple, because I can just use the burn tool and it'll just darken that itself. It's fine. It's genuinely funny. Lara Croft or Zentreya? I'm guessing both, because both are really, really funny to me. I won't even begin to pretend to understand how game developers' minds work. Yeah, no, best not to go down that route. There's a lot of things in Mass Effect, because of course I have to mention Mass Effect every time I can. There's a lot of decisions in Mass Effect where you read what some of their thoughts were behind certain decisions, and it's like baffling. Like, how on earth did you ever think that was a good idea, or what led you to think that way? One of my personal vendettas is I hate the way female Turians look. I hate the design for female Turians. And then you read like the character designers' mindsets behind it, and they were like, yeah, we were really stuck on how to make female Turians because, like, Turians are not sexy. So we couldn't just put lipstick on a Turian because we had to make a female Turian. We had to make her sexy. And I'm like, why? Why is that what... It's just that is baffling to me. I do not understand that line of thinking at all. It's like, it's a bird. It's a giant wing. It's a giant featherless bird. Why is that your main concern when designing a female member of the species? It's bizarre. Why do you not like Morgana in Persona 5? I think she's a good character. I don't really like her personality, at least in the beginning of the game, and I don't like that she's really, really mean to the other male character whose name I completely forget. Your buddy that you make when you're first starting the game, and you only have Anne, Morgana, and the other boy character who's on the track team. I really like him, and I did not like that Morgana was really mean to him. Giant featherless bird. You mean a man? Yes. Yes, I do. Ryuji, thank you. I really like Ryuji. I like his character. I think he's cool. He's my bro. And then Morgana and Anne are both like really mean to him for no reason. And I'm like, screw you guys. What's your problem? Why are you being mad to my friend? Like, what? Why? And I know it takes place in high school, but genuinely, what's with this high school bullying? But I need to get back to Persona 5. I think I'm 60 hours in. I'm not that far into the game, but I'm finding that game really rough. I really love Persona 4. I love Persona 4. I think it's a fantastic game. But Persona 5 is just really testing my patience with a lot of the character and writing. And people keep telling me, no, it gets better, it gets better. I'm sure it does, but that doesn't stop it being a little bit painful to try and get through. Vanilla or Royale? Vanilla, because I have it on PS4. What do you mean? Yeah, no, Royale is Persona 5. Because Persona 4 is Golden, I think is the extended version's name. Have no idea what's going on. They're JRPGs. They're Shin Megami Tensei RPGs. And they're very, very good for the most part. I really like Persona 4. I need to play Persona 3, especially now that there's like the remake out. But Persona 4 is great. Favorite Persona 4 character? Kanji. I like Kanji because I find his like personal struggles and the way his character is portrayed in the game is really, really interesting to me. And I don't know, maybe it's just like because it's the quote-unquote queer-coded character, so I automatically ended up liking him, because that's a thing that tends to happen to me a lot, unintentionally so. But I did find him interesting just as a character, where because he is instinctively a fan of, and not even feminine things, he likes knitting, he likes sewing, he likes stuffed animals, he likes that kind of thing, right? But as a little boy, he was made fun of liking those kinds of things. So he built himself up as like a Japanese delinquent kind of guy, specifically a biker, even though he's not a biker. That's what a lot of people think he is. And he'd get into fights with other boys just to kind of counteract his feminine tastes, which is something that happens a lot in real life. If boys and men grow up and people make fun of them for having feminine tastes or feminine interests, a lot of them will try and overcorrect and be like really toxic in their masculinity, because they think that that's what's expected of them, that's how they should be behaving, and it ends up in this like really negative spiral. And that's kind of what's going on with Kanji's character. And then it starts falling into this question of, is Kanji actually gay? And then the whole like repressed homosexuality comes into it, and his internalized homophobia comes into it. That's a big part of his character. And his character is essentially not coming to terms with the fact that he's gay, because the game never really spells out whether he is or not, but more him coming to terms with he is harboring these fears that he might be. It's more about him being afraid that he might be gay than it is about him actually being gay. And that's an fascinating take. It's because Persona 4 is all about like coming to terms with nasty parts of your personality. Parts of your personality which you don't want to admit, because you know that they could be seen as you being a bad person. So you try your best to avoid those parts of your personality, and you deny that those are parts of who you are as a person. And doing that is extremely destructive and like very harmful to yourself, to just deny certain parts of you, even if you feel, well, I can't admit to being this way or that way because it makes me seem like a horrible person. It's like, yes, but you have to come to terms with the fact that you are not a perfect person. We all have things that don't make us perfect. And that's just part of who you are. And it's when you accept that part of you that you can then start taking steps to either correct it or manage it, right? And that's kind of what Persona 4 is about. And Kanji's whole thing is, yes, there's the question of is he gay or not, but his actual problem is this idea of you're a man, you should act manly, you should have manly interests, and more him coming to terms with the fact that he is ashamed of himself because he has feminine interests and feminine tastes and things, and that his denial that that's a part of himself is part of the reasons why he can he's quite unhappy a lot of times. I really like Persona 4. It's really interesting. I always call it, it's basically, Persona 4 is the psychologist Jung, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and tarot. Then that's Persona 4. That's what Persona 4 is. It's tarot cards, like Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but they're tarot cards, and Pokemon, and also Jungian psychology. Is there anything else I need to do to this? I mean, I can probably make the whiskers a little bit lighter. Oh, I know what I can do. I can also add some glow and dodge to the line art. It's a bit too blue. It's too pink. There we go, that's fine. Honestly, that's a fascinating character. It's really interesting. And every single character in the game, like, all of them have problems, but all of their problems are genuinely interesting, complex problems. It's not just, oh, I'm bullied at school. It's all like really fascinating, complex situations. Because even after the character comes to terms with, this is a part of my personality that I can't keep denying, they are still in the game after they reach that revelation. So that thing that they're struggling with, they continue to struggle with it even after they've come to terms with the fact that it exists. Because just accepting that something exists doesn't actually... It's an important step of the process, but you can't just accept that, oh, this exists and leave it at that. You have to address and try to learn how to manage those feelings or those fears. So Persona 4 has a lot of that too, where the characters have to accept certain things. But then they also have to kind of come to terms with the fact that, okay, well, you've accepted it now. That doesn't mean it's gone away. That just means you've accepted it. So like with Kanji's thing, like Kanji is very, he's dealing with his internalized homophobia and internalized ideas of toxic masculinity. And then his character arc beyond that is like, okay, but now you have to get past those feelings of shame, which is all well and good, except you're going to have to live in the real world where you might be confronted with people who think liking those things is shameful. You have to deal with the fact that people are going to view those interests as something you shouldn't have, and you have to build up the self-confidence to not be bothered by it, by basically just being okay with it. Okay, now I'm going to color and dodge the line art a little bit. Let me just check the time. Our power is going out at midnight, but it's still like 2 hours away, so we don't have to worry too much. That sort of thing strikes me as one of the main things American Beauty did right. Colonel Fitz is a self-hating man who internalizes, then projects and lashes out. Yeah, that's kind of... Ooh, that's not what I want. That's kind of Kanji's deal as well. Because the problem is, because he acts out, he starts being, I don't want to say the word burden, but he starts being a concern for his mother, who feels her son is becoming this delinquent, violent person, when that's not really what's going on. So it's fascinating. He's a really well-written character. He's really interesting. But all the characters in Persona 4 are really interesting to me. I think they all have really interesting problems and hang-ups. Somebody in chat said their favorite character is Chie. Chie has a similar problem in that she is a girl, but she's not very feminine. But her best friend, Yuki, is extremely feminine. So Chie's hang-up isn't really the fact that she's not feminine. Chie's hang-up is the fact that she's not feminine like her friend Yuki, which develops into these feelings of like envy and really nasty, really dark feelings of jealousy towards her best friend. So that's Chie's problem as well, which is also really interesting to me. It's not just, oh, I'm not girly enough. It's like, I'm not girly enough, but my best friend who I really care about is, and that makes me really jealous and have nasty feelings towards her. Which sucks. Like, that's a really shitty position to be in. Because then she has to cope with the fact that she really cares about her best friend, but she is harboring these, like, feelings towards her, which are unfair. Oh, Soda is talking. Do you like Lauryn Hill? I'm not super familiar. Oh, is Port by the Sea good? I've never seen it. I'm not super familiar with it. The name sounds familiar. I probably know what it is, and I'm just blanking on the name. Port by the Sea. Was that Yukiko? Oh, yeah, Yukiko. Sorry, I said Yuki, but yeah, Yukiko. She's really interesting as well. Again, all the characters in Persona 4 are super interesting because none of the issues are just like, I'm not feminine enough. I'm shy. I need to learn how to be more outgoing. It's none of these like cookie cutter problems. It's like actual problems that real people would have. And I talked about like character flaws in the Superman video I just did. I think Persona 4 is really good to show how you can give your characters flaws and still have them be very interesting, likable people without like going for some cop-out, oh, they're very clumsy, oh, they're shy. Like the characters in Persona 4 have actual character flaws, which could very easily make them seem like unlikable people. But that's the whole point of the game, is the fact that they're all very, very unhappy and disturbed by the fact that they could be seen as really unlikable people because of the feelings they literally have. Let's give them some shadow. This one. Lauryn Hill was huge in the late 90s. Remember her from then because looking at her nowadays is real sad. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not super familiar. I made a post on Tumblr a while back that was like, I'm going to eventually get to an age where people think I'm out of touch with what's popular because I'm old. When it's like, no, I have never been in touch with what's popular, like ever. I'm always out of the loop. And always have been. As a teenager, I was out of the loop. Do that. Let's make them a little bit. And it's still early. I mean, I went live at 8 and it's now 20 past 10. So I'm gonna just keep fiddling with this so we can chat a bit more. Otherwise, it's like a really short stream compared to how long I usually go. And I don't want to cheat you guys out of like a shorter stream than usual just because I drew something fast. Let's do this. Actually, should I do? No, you know what? She's got yellow on her, so yes, let's do yellow. Clumsy can be a good flaw in Disney Mulan. Her clumsiness causes actual problems. She messes up in her matchmaking test. Yes, but Mulan's problem in Mulan, that's not her main flaw as a character. Her flaw as a character is the fact that she doesn't meet what is expected of her, whether that's because of her gender or because of her personality. She doesn't meet up to the ideals that her culture have set for her. So she does the whole thing where she joins the army, and she has that speech at one point where she said she didn't join the army to save her father. The real reason she joined was for selfish reasons. She wanted to feel like she was worth something. So not only is Mulan's problem that she's clumsy, it's that she doesn't fit into her culture's view of what she should be, which isn't her flaw. That's just a foil to her. But it causes her to then act selfishly by joining the army for self-serving reasons. Mulan's a very interesting character. It's a very good movie. There's a good video on YouTube where I think it's you guys have probably seen it, by Jeanne, and she was talking about the historical accuracy of the 1990s Mulan. And spoiler alert, it's shockingly historical accurate. Not the live action one. The live action one, surprise, surprise, is not historically accurate whatsoever. But the 1998 one is surprisingly historically accurate. So it's a really interesting video. Especially since I believe Jeanne herself is a Chinese historian, if I remember correctly. I say she. It might actually be they. I'm not entirely sure whether Jeanne said she's they or she. So apologies if I get that wrong. Maybe have Artemis wear something. Nah, he's fine as he is. I'm going to add some details and flourishes to things. Mulan's family kinda implies she might not make a good housewife. Yeah, her family implies that she's just a late bloomer, for lack of a better word. No, that's wrong. Her father doesn't say that. Her father says, he almost says literally that she's a late bloomer when he uses a flower as his symbolism. But his main point when he speaks to Mulan about that is that she hasn't found her place in the world yet, and he feels that she will. I think Mulan herself takes it as her father saying, oh, you'll meet somebody you fall in love with eventually. Whereas I think what her father was actually saying is he knows that she will find her place in life eventually. It's an interesting movie. It's a very good movie. Jiran is they. Okay, thank you. They have a... Come on, chat. Let me see what that word is. They are a history buff, but not a historian by trade. They use a lot of history and anime in their writing in their books. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, but Jiran, I was saying Jean. Jiran is very, very interesting, like the content that they've made. I watched their video on... Sorry, I bumped the mic. I watched the video on the live-action Mulan and the animated Mulan. I think they also made a video on Raya, the Last Dragon, that I also want to check out, because that's another topic is, oof, Raya, the Last Dragon, that's a movie that came out. Oh, I accidentally used the eyedropper. Now I have to grab the color I was using here. Here we go. Do you like Diary of a Wimpy Kid? It wasn't really a thing here, and I think it came out when I was just a little bit too old for it. You know, I was reading, I'm not sure when that came out, but in school, I was reading Terry Pratchett mostly. I think I started reading Terry Pratchett when I was around 12, maybe 11. So that was more the kind of thing that I was interested in around that time. Thoughts on Turning Red? I need to watch it because, and it's not only a thing of, oh, well, I haven't gotten to it yet. I don't really watch Pixar and Disney movies anymore. Simply because my thinking was, again, I've got so many things I want to watch. And for a very, very long time, Disney just kept, and Pixar as well, they just kept disappointing me and disappointing me and disappointing me. And it got to a point where I'm like, why am I watching these movies? Why am I watching them? This was before I had a YouTube channel, so there wasn't like, oh, you need them for context to talk about other things. It was just like, why am I wasting my time when I could be watching things which are so much better? So I didn't watch Turning Red because, again, I heard some of my friends who work in the industry go watch it, and it's not that it's terrible, they said. They just said that it's so mediocre and, like, just there. It's just another one that I could watch it if I wanted, but it might not be worth my time. And I was like, that's fine. I'll watch something else. It's also partly why I started doing I did this. I went, no. It's also why I want to get back to doing like the Disney stuff where I was ranking the Disney films, because I thought it would give me an excuse to actually watch the ones that I need to catch up on. And I know that's been on the back burner for a very long time. I know some people always ask about it. I do plan on getting back to it. It's just I do have to think about what does good traction on the channel and all that. And at this point, I think focusing on Has-Been Hotel might be a better... it would be a better decision to focus on a Has-Been Hotel breakdown than to immediately go back to the Disney breakdown. But that's also why I started doing those. because I thought it would give me an excuse to actually catch up on a lot of the Disney movies that I just didn't watch because I didn't feel a need to. I wasn't particularly interested. Raya's very incorrect depiction of Southeast culture. Not enough research. Yeah, that's kind of what I heard. I also heard that Raya the Last Dragon, it's like painful to watch. I saw the design of the dragon and immediately I was like, why did they turn Elsa from Frozen into a dragon? Because that's literally what it is. It's just Elsa, but a dragon. Turning Red is much better than Elemental in Toy Story 4. Well, that I can believe. At least Turning Red, from what I've heard, it seems like the people who made it actually wanted to make it and actually cared about the character and story they were telling. Turning Red was good. I might like it because I'm from the area it's set in and it's very familiar. That's the other thing. My friends were saying, if you're not actually from Canada or even America, a lot of it is just not for you, if that makes sense, because it deals with a lot of things which just doesn't mean anything to you, if that makes sense. But I also think that's a bad habit to fall into, because then you can ask things like, well, why do you watch anime? Because anime, especially older anime, is made for a Japanese audience, so it's also not made for you, so why are you watching that? So not really a valid reason not to watch something, I suppose. But I did hear that was like an active decision by the film itself, was to cater to people from Canada and that area specifically. It had a very specific target audience that it wanted to hit. Let me put it that way. But I do plan on checking it out. I'm not expecting it to be a bad movie though. Like, there are some movies where I actively expect that movie to be bad. I don't expect Turning Red to be bad. I'm not expecting it to be WALL-E or Ratatouille, but I'm expecting it to be, at the very least, an entertaining movie. It's okay for a story to be niche. We hold Pixar stories to the standard of being universal, when that's not how universal storytelling works. You know what? That's true. And like I said, then you can make the argument that, oh well, you, that being me, you watch a lot of anime from the 80s which is made for a Japanese audience. Why are you watching that then? It's like, yeah, fair enough. That's a good point. Turning Red is a cute movie. Yeah, I can see that being like what it is, which is fine. I mean, that's the problem with Pixar, is, I think I spoke about this before. Pixar painted themselves in a corner when they started making every single movie this massive emotional gut punch. Because then they put themselves in a position where every single movie they make has to almost outdo the previous one in how emotional it is. Every single movie that Pixar does has to be this massive emotional roller coaster. And if they don't make something that's a massive emotional roller coaster, then people say, oh, it's not really a good Pixar movie because it didn't make me bawl my eyes out for 15 minutes, right? And that sucks, because that means when they make smaller focused movies, like I heard this was a quote-unquote problem with Lucas as well. Lucas doesn't have the intent of being this massive emotional roller coaster. Lucas just wants to be a cute movie. I think my perspective is very all over the place with this drawing, but oh well. Lucas is not trying to be this massive emotional roller coaster. It's just trying to be a cute movie. But lots of people, when it came out, had so many negative things to say about it, because it wasn't Inside Out, it wasn't Ratatouille, it wasn't Coco. And I don't think that's a fair criticism. But I think it is a problem that Pixar have almost created for themselves, where they built their reputation on being this massive tearjerker studio, but in a way that just pigeonholes them. When The Good Dinosaur came out and it was just meh, they realized the corner they painted themselves into. Possibly, yeah. The problem is, The Good Dinosaur... Oops, that's not the one I wanted. The Good Dinosaur made the exact same mistake that the 2000s Disney movie Dinosaur made. Like, literally the exact same problem, where they wanted to make a... what's the word? There's a word for it in gaming. A tech demo. They wanted to make a tech demo and make a movie out of it. So, Dinosaur, that came out in the year 2000, was a giant tech demo to show how they could place CG characters onto real backgrounds. And like show off how cool and realistic that looks. And then they kind of built the entire movie around that. And as a result, I mean, you could make a good movie out of that. That's not the problem. The problem is just that the movie that they had in terms of writing characters was just not good. And it's the same problem The Good Dinosaur had. The Good Dinosaur exists as a tech demo because Pixar wanted to show off how photorealistic they could make CG backgrounds. And that's not me making an assumption. That is literally the focus reason that movie was made. That was like their... that was their core focus. That's why the movie got greenlit. But then again, you had the same problem where the story and characters were completely neglected in favor of selling the graphics. And then it had the extra problem which the original Dinosaur movie didn't have, which is that the character designs for the actual characters in The Good Dinosaur were completely at odds with the art design for the backgrounds. Like, the two did not come together. It does not work. Is there anything else I need to do? Oh yeah, I know what else. Make another layer. Put it to overlay as well. Grab this and grab this. Wrong one. This, not highlight, soft. There we go. Yes. Most dinosaur movies are tech demo movies. Just look at the Walking with Dinosaurs or the live action Lion King. Now, Walking with Dinosaurs was actually an honest attempt to make a documentary. They actually wanted to get David Attenborough to do the narration for Walking with Dinosaurs, but David Attenborough felt that it wasn't a quote-unquote real documentary because it didn't feature real animals. But in the amount of time that's gone by, and now that we have Ancient Planet, in the amount of time that's gone by, David Attenborough has reassessed how he felt about that stance regarding real animals. And he changed his mind because after seeing Walking with Dinosaurs, he realized, oh, you can actually do a nature documentary of ancient animals without having to have real live animals in front of the camera. And that's why he did the narration for Prehistoric Planet, not Ancient Planet. For Prehistoric Planet, even though he rejected doing the narration on Walking with Dinosaurs. But Walking with Dinosaurs, as much as it might have been a tech demo in some places, it was a genuine attempt at making a documentary. The best piece of Fantasia 2000 was the Flamingo piece, which ironically was made completely compulsively. My favorite part of Fantasia 2000 was always, I don't know if it'll still be that way, but I really like the Donald Duck sequence. It's probably just because I like Donald Duck, but I really like that sequence. Oh, and Rhapsody in Blue. Rhapsody in Blue in Fantasia 2000 is like genuinely a beautiful piece of filmmaking. Unfortunately, because Artemis is white, there's not much you can do in terms of effects, I guess is the best way to put it. And turn this one all the way down. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm just going to try something. When I was a kid, they used to air all these CG shorts in between TV shows. There's one I never forgot about, a bird falling in love with a fish. Looking back, they sound very tech demo, possibly. But that's what Pixar used to do. All the Pixar shorts that they did in front of their movies, those were tech demos. That's why those exist. When they did Jerry's Game, the short with the old man playing chess, they did that just before Toy Story 2 came out. And they were using Jerry's Game to test if they could make human models for animation. That's why Jerry's Game came out, because they knew that the human models in the original Toy Story were not good. They knew that those models looked not great and uncanny, And that's why all the movies for a very long period of time didn't feature human characters whatsoever until Toy Story 2. And then they made the short Jerry's Game as a tech demo to see if they could believably, if not realistically, sell a human CG animated character. And they did that with a lot of things. So many of their shorts literally only exist as tech demos, but that's the point. That's why they're shorts and not complete movies. Come on, where's this brush? Feather, rose, petal, cherry. I thought it was a default brush that came with Clip Studio Paint, but I guess not, because it's not at the top. Ari. Oh, here it is. Kira. Okay. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. Particle size. Push that up. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to add these to Artemis, because he's a white cat, so there isn't much you can do in terms of a fix. There we go. Is there anything else I can do to this? I mean, I'd probably just slap something in the background just to have something there. Let's see what I have. I'm not going to draw like a proper background because that'll just take too long. Materials, manga patterns, color patterns? Let's see. Parchment. These are all like really... that one maybe? No, it's too light. Artemis will get lost if I put that there. These are all like really colorful with a lot of contrast to them. So, well, that one isn't, but it doesn't really match. So if I put these behind the characters, they'll kind of disappear a little bit. Nah, I don't think any of these are going to work. Okay, I'll just like put a color there. Pixar needs to learn to stylize its animation without looking photorealistic, or at least stylize its characters too. A lot of animated movies follow Spider-Verse's direction. I think that Pixar has actually always been relatively okay with that kind of thing. Especially, we were talking about Turning Red earlier. Turning Red, one thing that I do like is that it has a clear style to its characters. And Pixar has kind of always been that way. Yes, The Good Dinosaur had the big problem of not stylizing its backgrounds and trying to go for photorealistic. But Pixar has always kind of understood to go for stylization rather than being photorealistic. And that's why in the mid-2000s, they kind of had a leg up on DreamWorks movies, because for a long time, DreamWorks movies were trying to be way too photorealistic when they didn't need to be. Like, the characters in Megamind, I really dislike how those characters look. Even though I like the movie a lot, I really like Megamind, I don't like the character designs because it's this weird uncanny valley balance where the characters, they've got like human eyelashes and things. It's way too realistic for what they were trying to go for. Coincidence, I rewatched the Tin Toy short yesterday. The voice acting of an actual baby did 100% of the heavy lifting. The baby model back in '88 was trash. Yeah, the dog in the original Toy Story is garbage. It looks so bad. It does its job, and it's animated well. This is a pet peeve of mine, and you often see this with people who don't really know much about animation. They will praise how good animation looks in a scene where the animation isn't much better than older animation. It's just that the rendering technology is better. So you've got like lighting and particle effects and fur texture. None of that is animation. That's not what animation is. Animation is the movement. Animation is the illusion of life. That is the technical definition of what animation is. So you can't sit there and be like, wow, look how good the animation is in this, when it's a screenshot of like particle effects and a cat's fur. That was driving me crazy when that was going around for Toy Story 4, where it was showing like the cat and then comparing it to the dog from Toy Story 1. And the dog's model is trash. But the dog's animation, it's really bad in some scenes, but in some scenes it's fine. It's really okay. It's not bad animation. It's just animation. But then people will show like a scene where the dog is walking to a scene where the cat is sleeping and literally not moving, and they'll be like, wow, look how far animation has come. And I like lose my mind. I'm like, you clearly don't understand the words that you're saying. It's that clip from Princess Bride. It's like, you keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. Maybe I can make this particle size even bigger. Might be a bit too big. Yeah, it's a bit big. Bring it down. What was that IMAX movie from the early 2000s that was a collection of CG shorts? One of them was the Simpsons Halloween clip that was partly 3D. I think the movie might be Lost, if I recall. I don't know. I don't remember that. I don't remember seeing that. I don't know if it would be a thing here because we didn't get everything. Excuse me. Ooh, hiccup. We didn't get everything that other countries did. So unless you went to one of like the art house cinemas, there's a lot of stuff we just simply did not get. Let's see. Oh, that's not it. Ah, here we go. Make this lighter. Actually, let's make it a different color. Let's make it blue. There we go. I'm honestly just faffing around with this picture now. Spud in Toy Story looks like a 3D model of a 12-ounce mouse. He really does. The model is really bad. That's like why they had the puppy in Toy Story 2, was to be like, see how much we've improved. Which, I mean, fair enough. I'm not going to hold that against them. It's like, see, look how much better we've gotten. That's a lot of sparkles. I might have to tone it down a little bit.
Dedicated to all you folks at the beach. You know, there's something special about falling in love in summer. Once again, here's Toshiki Kadomatsu with a song all
There, I think that's okay. That's better. Yeah. What else? I might have to call it there. Because like I said, I'm just faffing with this at this point. Oh, I must sign it. That's something I can do in the meantime. Which pen? This one. How do you think Toy Story 5 will look? I think Toy Story 5 is going to be a massive not redirect. What's the word? Course correct. At least I hope it is. And I think that that's kind of what they have to do. Because you, or at least you can, but I don't see Pixar being willing to make a Toy Story movie without Woody and Buzz being like active characters in the movie. I can't see them making a Toy Story movie and not having Woody in it. So they would have to do something massive to course correct and try and fix the damage that Toy Story 4 did. Because Toy Story 4 did a lot of damage. Not only is it not a good movie, it's a very bad movie in terms of writing. It also irrevocably damaged the Toy Story franchise in terms of where it can go from here. And then you have to factor into it that the people who like own Pixar, the guys who make the calls and say, you have to do this, you have to do that, because we need the movie to include these things for it to be successful according to market research, like those guys, I can't see them being happy with there not being a Woody and Buzz in a next Toy Story movie, because it just doesn't make sense to them. And although I think you can make a Toy Story movie without Woody and Buzz, I understand that people in charge would not want to do that. And I think it is a valid point, because if you're like 12 or you're like 10 and you're gonna watch the new Toy Story movie and then Buzz and Woody are not in it, that's gonna upset you. If you're a kid, all you're gonna do is keep asking your mom, where's Buzz? Where's Woody? So I do understand, to a certain extent, being like, it needs to have Woody and Buzz in it, at least. And if I was a studio exec and I was thinking along those terms and not in terms of like artistic filmmaking, that would be a very important point I would make. So I think, and the only way you can kind of move forward with Toy Story, unless you go in a completely different direction, is you need to undo the damage of Toy Story 4 and get away for Buzz and Woody to be in the movie together. And like, that's the challenge. That's the challenge of Toy Story 5. And like, moving it forward as a project. I think you absolutely could do a Toy Story movie and you can only focus on Woody or only focus on Buzz. Personally, if it was up to me and those were my choices, I would make a movie focusing entirely on Buzz, because I think he is severely underutilized in Toy Story 3 and 4, but I just don't see them being willing to do that. Especially because Disney as a whole, even though Pixar is kind of separate from Disney, they are, you know, they're conjoined to each other. Disney is in a very difficult position right now because nothing they're releasing is making money. Literally nothing is making money at the moment because everybody's just sick of their shit. So the people who make those decisions are panicking right now, and I would imagine that no, Toy Story 5 absolutely has to make money. So we cannot do anything that might jeopardize it not making money. Oh, I forgot Lightyear came out. Damn it. No, but Lightyear was supposed to be a representation of the movie and TV show that Andy was watching in the 90s. I'm talking about a Toy Story 5 movie that focuses on Buzz Lightyear as the toy. Like, move forward with Buzz as a sole character removed from Woody and exploring what that character is. That is a direction you could take it, but I don't think that's a move that the people who are in charge of Pixar would be willing to do, just because it's very risky, and the company is not in a position right now where they can take risks like that, which sucks. I'm just going to turn off my tablet, so this is my computer, it's not yours, so don't freak out. Okay. Just so I can shift position. Now I can hang out with you guys. Do I have my little face on screen? Yes, I do. I want to get like a new graphic to have on screen while I'm talking, so that when I'm chatting with you guys and the drawing is more or less finished, that you guys aren't just staring at a static screen while I'm talking. I'm working on that. I'd love if they brought the Buzz Lightyear cartoon back. I heard that was very good. I didn't watch it that much. We got the Disney Channel very late in my country, so by the time we did get it, I don't think that show was airing anymore. It was more like Hannah Montana and that era of cartoons when Disney Channel hit us. And you know, in High School Musical, and the second Hannah Montana and High School Musical happened, that like dominated the Disney Channel entirely. It like the entire channel almost existed to promote those two things. It was really obnoxious, but it meant that we didn't really get the Buzz Lightyear cartoon at all. The irony is that Pixar's principles are ripped straight from 2D animation, how a character thinks, feels, and exists, having a direct tie to how they move. It's true, and like I said, I'm speaking more from the perception of a studio exec. Well, I'm projecting what I think a studio exec would think. I don't know how their minds actually work. But I don't think every decision that a studio exec makes is a bad one. But I feel like moving forward with Toy Story 5, that is going to be the major challenge. Which doesn't have to be a bad thing, because at the end of the day, a lot of storytelling is problem solving. And that's kind of what makes it fun in a lot of ways. Is like, okay, this is the problem, how do we fix it? And you can do it very good, or you can do it very bad. And I think, how do you make a Toy Story 5 movie and Woody and Buzz have to both be in it? That's an interesting problem that you can solve in very interesting ways. It just depends on your skill as a writer as to how well you can put it off. Did you guys get Toon Disney? We got something, I think you guys got it as well. Well, America got it as well. We had the Disney afternoon, where on Saturdays, at 11 o'clock in the morning, they would play like a bunch of Disney cartoons back to back for like an hour or 2 hours. So we got Goof Troop, we got Chippendale Rescue Rangers, we got DuckTales. What was the other one? There was another one. Oh, Gummy Bears. So we got like those 4, like every single Saturday. They would just have a block that would play those. But that would be like the only time that we would get Disney content. Hey Puff, love the most recent. I watched the Velma and High Guardian supercuts often for background noise, and they're so good. Can't wait for the Superman Part 3 and its supercut. Oh, thank you. I'm so happy you're enjoying it. I mean, it took them more than 20 years to do something with Bo Peep, but like, give us something to do and or Jessie. Yeah, but then you have to talk about what they actually did to Bo Peep, which is they didn't. They just invented a new character and called her Bo Peep, and then inserted her into the movie. They didn't actually do anything with the Bo Peep character as she existed. They essentially just created another generic Disney heroine and put her in the Toy Story universe. Like, that's what they did with Bo Peep, which is frustrating. The gumshoe trend was really interesting in the early 90s. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but the first thing that comes to mind is I really liked the show Dog City, which is a Jim Henson show. Which is extremely ironic, come to think of it, because Dog City is about an animator who makes a cartoon about like a noir detective. It's really good. I need to watch that again. I remember it being great. But that's like what I think of when you say like the gumshoe trend. Is like what happens in Dog City. I gotta go now. Having dinner with family. Stay safe. Thanks for dropping by, Prophet of Puns. Maybe they should try finishing Gigantic, something that isn't a remake or a sequel. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I've noticed every single time an animated movie tries to make a story around like a giant character of any like persuasion, it never seems to go well, and I don't know why. I don't know what it is, where when an animated movie has like a giant character, the movie isn't very good. And it's never because the character is giant. It just happens to be a movie where there's a giant character, and then for some reason it just never comes together properly. It's very bizarre. I'm at episode 5 of your Superman breakdown, enjoying it so far, much like I enjoy the rest of your breakdowns. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you enjoy it. There's one thing I said at the end of that video, which I wish I could have worded better. I caught it while I was editing, and by then it was too late to then go back and restructure my thoughts. But I said at the end that a kind of bad story, movie, TV show, whatever. Oh, sorry, I need more water. I'm hiccuping. A kind of bad story that people don't talk about often is something which had very good potential and then just completely squanders and wastes it. And I said that that's a kind of bad people don't talk about often. But then I immediately go on to say, oh, I've been watching people talk about Miraculous Ladybug, which has that problem. And what I meant in the video was that when people discuss bad media as the main topic, when they discuss things like so bad it's good TV shows, terrible TV shows, like when they discuss bad media as the focus, they don't often bring up the wasted potential. When people talk about a show that has wasted potential, it's usually when they're focusing on the specific show itself. But the discussion of wasted potential is rarely brought into the discussion of broader bad media. And I didn't really communicate that very well in the video, which I was a little disappointed by. Maybe I've just been watching too much EFAP, and I was watching EFAP break down Never Knows Best's video, where Never Knows Best was simping for Starfield very, very hard. And then the video where Never Knows Best, he starts off simping for Starfield, but then the video becomes like a hit piece where he's targeting 2 other YouTubers who discuss Bethesda games, and he becomes like really vindictive in calling them out and misrepresenting them in the video and stuff like that. So I watched EFAP watch that video. It's a very good episode. It's 11 hours long, but I highly recommend it. And I was watching them deconstruct how he was making his arguments. And maybe because it's an 11-hour video, I had been watching them deconstruct the way that Never Knows Best doesn't clearly talk his point properly. They were discussing how Never Knows Best wasn't making his point very clear. And because I was watching so much of that with this video, it might be that I'm now overthinking the way I wrote my script, where I'm like, I didn't make that point as clear as I could have, because I said that people don't discuss wasted potential, but then I go on to say, oh, these people discuss wasted potential. So I would have written that differently, or at least worded it differently, because I don't think my point was as clear as it could have been. But I only noticed that it's like way at the end of the video, and I only noticed that when I got to that part of editing, and by that point I was almost done. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna have to accept that that's a part of the video that isn't as good as it could have been, and move on to the next part. You can't always fine tweak every single video and try and get it perfect, because then you'll be working on a video for like years and years and years, and it'll never actually come out. So I was sad. Well, not sad. I was disappointed that I didn't make my point as clear as I could have, but it's fine. It's fine, but I wanted to mention it here because it bothered me enough for me to keep thinking about it. Hey, Jose. I was thinking, would you ever talk about Ruby? I was obsessed with Rooster Teeth until about 2016 when they fell off. You know what? There are so many good videos that people have made talking about Ruby, made by people who are like were at least diehard fans, people who have stuck with Ruby since season 1 and these days really dislike it. And I've watched a good few videos by people who really break down in very good detail why it's bad. And I feel that I would come in as an outsider who doesn't understand being a fan and sticking with it for that long, and not being emotionally attached to Monty and not understanding the devastation that his unfortunate death caused on the show as well as the fans, and how that affected the writing moving forward. Like it's a very big topic that I feel I am perhaps not ill-equipped, but I feel was done so much better by other people. I don't think there's much I can add to the conversation by talking about it myself, because I feel anything of value that I could say about it would be something that I've heard people who have already spoken about it say, and I would just be reiterating their thoughts, because I would feel they are more knowledgeable than I, so I would refer to them, and then my content would just end up being derivative. So I don't think I would cover it, but I don't want to say I'll never cover it, because maybe things will change, but I just feel like it's not a topic where I feel I could make content with something remarkable to say about it, just because I've seen other people say a lot about it, and I don't sit here and think, oh, well, they didn't bring up this. Like with High Guardian Spice, like I said, a big part of that video was I wasn't seeing people talk about, is the show actually good or not? They were so busy discussing everything else. Nobody was saying, well, why is the show so bad? Not the politics of it, not the Twitter fights. Why is the show a bad watch experience? And I felt that was something that I could talk about. Whereas with Ruby, that is what most people who cover it talk about, is the writing and the characters and stuff like that. They'll mention Rooster Teeth, and they'll mention the bad business practices and things like that. And that will be part of the conversation, but their focus as fans is on the bad writing. So, like I said, I just feel like something, if I were to make a video on it, it would just kind of be derivative. Did you ever watch The Color of Friendship? How bad is the girl's Afrikaans accent? Oh no, I have not watched it, and I'm very scared too, because nothing makes me cringe worse than a bad Afrikaner accent. It's really cringe when somebody tries to do like a South African accent, and it's not. Or it's a kind of accent, because I guess we're a bit like England, where there's not just an Afrikaans accent, it's like subdivided into what part of the country you're from. So you can like tell if somebody is Afrikaans and from Pretoria, or if they're Afrikaans and from the Kalahari, or if they're Afrikaans and they're from the Southern Cape. Like, you can tell just by how they speak. And then there's also the ethnicity thing, because a white Afrikaans, a person who speaks Afrikaans and is white, speaks Afrikaans completely differently to a person who is colored, and the way they speak Afrikaans. And that's not a slur, it is a unique ethnicity to South Africa. It's a big shame, because whenever South Africans mention a colored person, they also kind of have to preface that that's an ethnicity here, it's not a slur. Because Americans especially, like, they go insane, and then we don't realize that in America that's a slur. It's like, it's not a slur here, it's an ethnicity. It's a literal ethnicity. But the way that the colored population here speaks Afrikaans is completely different to a white person speaking Afrikaans, even if it's the exact same part of the country. So an Afrikaner accent is it's not just having an Afrikaans accent. There's all these nuances to it. So it's very cringe when you hear somebody do it incorrectly. The H-Bomber Guy video on Ruby is really well done. I'm one of the fans that was agreeing begrudgingly for the whole thing. Yeah, that's the other thing. I forgot. H-Bomber Guy did a video on Ruby, and it's so good. A lot of H-Bomber Guy's videos are hit and miss, but that is a really good video. And that's the other thing. Like, I think that video last I checked has like 2 million views. And it's a good video. It's a really, really good video. One thing I noticed is that the character... Oh, are you speaking to somebody else, or are you speaking to me? Sometimes there's like side conversations going on in chat, and then I don't know if I'm reading somebody's response to somebody else, or if they're addressing me. It was... Oh, you guys are talking about Chicago. Okay, cool. Heard there was a movement to get rid of Afrikaans in school over there. Not really movement. It's very complicated. It's very complicated, and I don't really want to get into it. But basically, the government doesn't like Afrikaans, but they can't just get rid of it. So it's a really strange and difficult situation that somebody a lot more eloquent than me would have to talk about. It's tied up in like race politics, which is nonsense, because not only white people speak Afrikaans. That's like an entire topic unto itself. But it all boils down to race politics, and it's tiring. It's very tiring. I heard recently about a South African singer who called herself colored, and apparently a lot of Americans couldn't get it. Yeah, because I saw somebody on Tumblr who is colored say that it was in reply to a page from Dungeon Meshi, where Chilchuk, who is a halfling or a hobbit, was saying that in common tongue, halflings have so many different names because the halfling word for halflings is a slur in common tongue. And then somebody commented on that saying, as a South African who is from an ethnicity that is considered a slur in America, they feel this. And I'm like, I feel so bad for if you're a colored person and you are basically not allowed to say what your ethnicity is on the internet, because so many people would think you're saying a slur. And it's like, no, it's a unique ethnicity only found in South Africa, and that is what it's called. That's that ethnicity. It is something in of themselves. Yeah. When Seapup says the government, she means three parties that hate each other and you. Yeah, pretty much. But then again, that's every country. I think every country is like that to a certain degree. It's like every country has like three parties and they also hate you. I know Trevor Noah talked about that. He said that he was told he was supposed to say mixed race. Yeah, Trevor Noah, does he say he's colored? Because if I remember correctly, his mother is Xhosa and his father is white, if I remember correctly. So he's not colored. He he is mixed, because some people also say they're colored when they're actually mixed. But being a colored person is not just being mixed, because the colored people in South Africa, they are a mix of ethnicities that also include Khoisan, which is it's not black. Khoisan is it's, well, what Americans I guess know as Bushmen, although we don't call them that. It's Khoisan. It's got some of that ethnicity. It's got some of Malaysian ethnicity to it. It's got some white. It's got some black. It's a big mesh of everything, but it's its own ethnicity. They speak Afrikaans in a very unique way. They have their own communities, their own culture, their own identity as a culture, and it's colored. That's what they are. I saw the person on Tumblr say, "How did we get here? I don't know." The person on Tumblr was saying that they refer to themselves online as Cape Malay, just because it's easier than trying to explain that kind of thing. But anyway, that's how we got here. We were talking about the Afrikaans language, and I just mentioned that not only white people speak Afrikaans, because colored people speak it too. And then I realized I had to explain what colored means, because people might just think I'm saying a slur when I'm not. Anyway, we spoke a lot about politics unintentionally this stream, but I am happy that we didn't start arguing about it, which I think the entire chat room, including myself, we all get medals for mentioning politics more than once, and nobody sent, big blowing into the mic, nobody sent anyone a death threat or a hate comment or started an argument. And I just noticed I misspelled February in the title of the stream. We're a group of good eggs. That being said, I just saw I misspelled February. I want to redo the opening. Well, not redo because I didn't do it. I also want to do an intro for streams, because I made the new intro for videos themselves. I want to do an intro for streams that I animate myself, but I misspelled starting soon in the intro, and I said I needed to fix it, and a lot of people, it was not an art pun. No, it was me being unable to type. A lot of people were saying they really like the staring soon typo in the intro. So when I redo the intro, do I keep that, or do I actually make it the proper starting soon? Because that's a decision I have to make. Do I keep the typo? Because when I wanted to change it, a lot of people were like, "No, don't change the typo." Or do I just like write it properly this time? You see, immediately people are like, "Oh no, keep it." Februart. Honestly, I wish I thought that was on purpose. I could have sold that as being on purpose, but no, I am unable to type. That is just something we all have to accept. I make typos up and down all day, every day, and I very often don't notice them. Everybody's saying keep staring soon. Okay, I'll keep staring soon because everybody's like, no, don't change it. I say own the steering soon, but maybe animate a cute chibi of your avatar just vibing, something cute. Yeah, I was thinking of keeping the dolphin theme for the starting soon screen, but at first I thought maybe I should animate myself riding the dolphin, but here's the problem. Let me show you. The problem is, right, a dolphin. Let me see if I can do this. Go to this folder here. No, it won't open because it's a GIF. Okay. So let me just show you the problem here. I thought about doing the starting soon animatic and having myself ride the dolphin. But the problem is a dolphin, it would be me. I would be sitting here. There's my hair. There's me. I'm sitting like this, right? The problem is a dolphin is shaped like this. So that won't work, will it? So no, I'm going to have to do something else. So I was thinking I would animate myself side saddling it. And I think that's what I'll do instead. So I'm thinking of doing that. And it won't be just like a dolphin. I'm thinking of keeping like the neon vaporwave style. And I was looking a lot of at stream assets and things that people have that are dolphin themed. And it seems a lot of people go for like the aqua themed, like the ocean theme without... They don't really do it like the neon vaporwave style. So I want to keep that style, but I actually want to animate it and like make it cute and stuff. And then I'll put staring soon on it. I don't know, maybe I'll put... Oh, you know what I can do? In the word soon, I can make the O's in the word soon. I can make those eyes. And like if anybody's very confused about it, people in chat who've been here a while can be like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We know what it means. It means that CPUF can't type. Better for you to ride the dolphin than for the dolphin to ride you. No, let's not talk about that. I know what you're talking about, and no. But yeah, so that was one thing where I'm like, maybe I shouldn't animate it that way. But yeah, so I'm thinking of redoing well, I say redoing. I didn't do the original one. I just found a looped animation that I quite liked. And then because I really like the song Realm of the Dolphin Overlord, it just kind of came together very well. Because I really like that song and I think it's really cool. So yeah, I'm thinking of something similar, but made by myself. I also need to redo the avatars, all my expressions, because I updated the character design. So I need to do that. I've done some of them, but I haven't done all of them. And the thing is, right... I don't just have character expressions. A lot of the character expressions I have also have blink animation. So I not only have to alter the expressions, I also then have to alter the animation I did of that expression blinking. So I've done about 4. I need to do the rest. I think there's about 40. I think there's about 40, 43, 40 something. Let me see how many expressions I have. Let me see how many are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43... 44, 45, 46. I have 46 expressions and I've done 4. So I need to do that as well. They're not going to show up in the Superman reviews though, because somebody pointed out in the comments that it would be best to keep the character design consistent so that when I do the supercut, the character design is the same throughout the entire supercut and doesn't just randomly change halfway through. But I do need to update the expressions as well to fit the new character design. Starting soon as the streams, steering soon, and as the stream starts, the eyes focus on the viewer. That'd be terrifying. Speaking of the character, I enjoyed the bit in the recent review of you pouring a strong drink to handle the bullshit on screen. Man, I didn't know what, like, Lois and Clark just arguing in the middle of the woods. When I got to that part in the script, and I'm watching the episode as I'm writing the script, I'm like, what do I even say? It's just the same problem I have with this writing over and over again, and they just keep going, and it's all terrible for the same reason. It never becomes any better or more terrible. It's just the same thing. So I was like, all I can think to do is just sit back and pour myself a drink and leave them to just go at it, because what more can I say at this point? I do enjoy the different expressions, and the fact that they have blinking animation is such a simple way of bringing some extra life to them. Yeah, in Animation College, we were told that if we have a character standing and they're not moving, make them blink, because if you don't do that, that character just looks dead in the background. So even if you don't animate the character, at least have them blink. And you'll even see that in South Park. You'll see like characters in the background in South Park, and as simple as their art style is, they still know enough to know to make characters blink even when they're not doing anything. And I just thought that, well, I can animate a blink. It's one of the easiest things in the world. And it's just an easy way to kind of give my avatar a bit of uniqueness without having to make them like wobble on screen. Or some people, when they have like PNGs on screen, they'll have them like bob in place, or they'll make them shrink and grow when they change expression. And I thought, well, instead of doing all that, I'll just give mine a blink, because I can animate it, it looks cute, and it's just something I felt was rather unique. And I just like the way it looks. Embrace the 80s synthwave and have you riding a pink convertible. Then I would have to draw a car. I don't want to draw a car. I really don't. Wait, was Luna ever human outside of the live action show? Yes, she's a human in the S movie, which is based on a short story in the manga, whatever. And in the manga, in the second final arc of the manga, they all the cats get human forms as well. Do I have her human form from the movie? Let me check. It's really oh, there it is. It's really cute. I really like it. There we go. That's her human design. It's really, really cute. I actually saw a cosplayer who cosplayed as the Princess Kaguya Luna, which is what this form is called. And she's a dark-skinned cosplayer. She's black. And it looks so good. It almost makes me wish that Luna, her human form, was black, because she's got black fur, and it just makes sense to me design wise, because when I see cosplayers who are black cosplay her, it looks so good in the yellow dress. It's so gorgeous. It's really sad. It's like one of those where you're like, that would have been so good in terms of design, and it's such a missed opportunity, but oh well. That's some diva hair. Yeah, that's Naoko Takeuchi. Naoko studied fashion design. I believe, if I remember correctly, I might be wrong, but I remember somebody saying at one point that she studied fashion design, and that is why a lot of her art design, a lot of her character design looks the way it does. And it makes sense when you see her artwork itself. But yeah, she is a big fan of the enormous hair, and a lot of the iconic outfits in Sailor Moon are actually based on runway looks from the 90s when she was making the manga. There's a lot of looks that are literally just things she saw on the runway. Maybe hanging onto a dolphin for dear life while flying through a vaporwave environment. Oh, that's a good idea. That would be very funny, actually. Just me in peril. Like at the start of every stream. Which, my streams are so all over the place and like flailing and awkward and stuff like that. So that might actually be very funny. Like every stream starts with me hanging on for dear life, almost dying. It's like, yeah, that's accurate. This whole will they, won't they with Clark and Lois can't go on forever. Luckily, it doesn't. That is the one thing I will give the show credit for. They don't put them in a will they, won't they relationship that just keeps going and going forever and never actually goes anywhere. Because that is like one of my biggest pet peeves. Is when they do this a lot in anime, is when it doesn't progress anywhere. It just stays in a stagnant position where it's just constant will they, won't they, and nothing happens, and it's just they're reverted back to status quo at the end of every single episode, and it's just will they, won't they over and over again. It gets so boring, especially for somebody like me where romance is not an automatic interesting plot line. You have to do a lot of work for me to actually get invested in romance. So simply having two characters do will they, won't they is exceptionally boring to me, because you're not telling me why I should care about this couple. You're not telling me why I should care about this relationship. So you teasing will they, won't they, it's just boring and distracting and frustrating to watch. I know it's become popular to dunk on it, but the sitcom Friends, they did the will they, won't they thing with Ross and Rachel, which was not my favorite part of the series whatsoever. But I will give Friends some... what's the word? I will give Friends a compliment in that the way that they wrote the will they, won't they romance between Ross and Rachel is that at least things happened with those characters. Those characters did credit, thank you. Those characters progressed. Like those characters did things and became different people as the show went on. They evolved, even though they kept arguing and it was never clear if they were going to get together or not. At least the characters progressed forward. They weren't just stuck in the exact same position as the exact same characters and were just in a stagnant will they won't they relationship for like 10 seasons. That would have driven me insane. But at least there was some semblance of interest there. But even that was never my favorite part of the show because, again, I'm not particularly interested in will they won't they relationship. I don't find it a selling point to me whatsoever. So, at least with My Adventure with Superman, they do progress Clark and Lois's relationship forward. They don't just keep them in the same position for the entire show. It's a very badly written romance, make no mistake. It's very, very badly written. But at least they don't keep them in a stagnant position. So that's at least one good thing I can give it. Because I keep thinking of like Ranma and a Half. If you've ever watched Ranma and a Half, that TV show is pain. That show is so painful to watch if you don't like will they won't they romance. Because it is literally just that for like 8 seasons or something, and it never gets more or less than that. It is always the exact same kind of will they won't they for the entire run of the show. It's so mind numbing. It's like I said, it's pain. I never watched Inuyasha, but I assume it's very similar, where even though things happen in Inuyasha, whereas things don't really happen in Ranma and a Half, Inuyasha, from what I hear, it has the same problem where the will they won't they romance just keeps going and going and going and never progresses, and it's just kept in the exact same position for the entire run of the show. It sounds painful. I started watching Urusei Yatsura a while back, and at least with Urusei Yatsura, that's also a will they won't they, but Urusei Yatsura at least has progression, and Urusei Yatsura is a comedy. And at least in the beginning of Urusei Yatsura, Lum and Ataru, I think his name is Ataru, the guy in Urusei Yatsura, or is that the main character in Gundam? I can't remember. Where's Ataru from? Is it Gundam or is it Urusei Yatsura? Anyway, the main boy in Lum is almost a punishment for him being like a man whore. Like, she is his punishment for cheating on his girlfriend. And that's why it's enjoyable. Because Lum is exactly the girlfriend he deserves. And that's why it's funny. That's why that show works. So it's a will they won't they, but it's highly entertaining. Which I didn't get from Ranma 1/2. Oh, Indigo, thank you for the super chat so much. The first episode of Ranma makes me so sad because Ranma and Akane were immediate friends and good friends until he switches. Yeah, Ranma is painful. It's a good show to a certain extent. It's just that the will they won't they romance, it drags me down. Oh, Ataru is Urusei and Amuro is Gundam. Thank you. So yeah, Ataru, He's like a terrible person. Like, he's legitimately just a terrible person, but the show is 100% aware of the fact that Ataru is a terrible person. So when Lum comes out of nowhere and, like, she electrocutes him every episode. Oh, sorry. I really need water. She electrocutes him every episode, and it's kind of... he kind of deserves it. So whenever he's off and he's trying to like take photos, there's the super chat notification, take photos of a girl's panties and things like that, Lum happens and she happens at him and she electrocutes him and she gives him hell for being quote-unquote unfaithful to her, even though he wants nothing to do with her. Like, Lum is his punishment for being the way he is. But then as the show goes forward, they actually develop into a real relationship with each other, and it forces Ataru to actually, like, mature as a person, and it forces even Lum to kind of become a more well-rounded character. So even though that's a will they won't they romance, it's presented in a completely different package, where it's not just jerking you around for 8 seasons. Frasier is still my favorite 90s sitcom. Frasier is very good. I was watching, there's a YouTuber called Jose, and he covers like weird political topics, and then he also covers sitcoms. So I don't watch his weird political videos, but I watch his sitcoms, and I was rewatching his video. He's got a video called How Do We Talk About the Cosby Show, which is really good. But he also did a video on Cheers, which I really liked, and he did a video on Frasier. And I haven't watched the video on Frasier, but I have watched the one on Cheers. But Frasier is another sitcom. I really like Frasier. It's really, really good. To reduce hiccups, take a slow, deep breath while sitting upright. Keep breathing till a small air bubble will release in your windpipe, then slowly exhale. Works every time. My problem is, I think there's something weird in my windpipe, like, because I would get hiccups before I was born, and I'm not sure how that works. So my only guess is there's like something physically weird going on there, because I don't understand how you get hiccups before you're born, but that is a thing that constantly happened to me as a baby. So it's the reaction, yeah. So when I get hiccups, it's like, oh well, it's this again. I'll just have to cope. Star vs. the Forces of Evil was the worst romance. I've seen videos talking about that, where stringing along its audience with ship bait is basically what spelled that series as Doom. From the conversation I see, that's not my opinion, that's what I'm seeing people say. And I need to delve into what went wrong there, because it seems a lot. It seems a lot went wrong there. I need to watch that Cosby Show one. That's been a subject I've thought about once or twice. It's a very good video, and it's not like an upsetting video, which I quite appreciate considering the subject matter. And it really tries very hard to analyze the Cosby Show as an important piece of media, but also this horrendous person made it. It's a very, very good video, and it's fascinating to watch. Highly recommend it. Very, very, very good. And it doesn't fully answer how an individual should feel about the Cosby Show. It merely presents how do we talk about it. Like, how do we discuss the Cosby Show as an important piece of media, especially for race relations, but also Cosby. We can't ignore Cosby himself. It's called The Cosby Show, for heaven's sake. You know? So, a very good video, very interesting. But my point was, he did Cheers, which I really, really highly enjoyed. And then he also did a video on Frasier, which I still need to watch. I think I mentioned, I have a book on 1001 TV shows to watch before you die. And I think I'm on the 80s in that book. And I believe it mentions Cheers. And I think it will mention Frasier, because I don't think you can exclude Frasier from a list of TV shows that are considered the best or most important. But I don't think I've gotten to Cheers in the book yet. I think I'm at Columbo, which I started watching, and I really like it so far. Columbo is really, really, really good. Like, also, it is, you can find it. You can find every episode of Columbo on the archive. So, I don't want to say too much because YouTube TOS, but, you know, that's the thing. Somebody else is mentioning MASH. Let's talk about that before I get in trouble. I've been thinking about starting to watch MASH. That's another one I need to watch as well. There are people, like, actively still that are, like, massive fans of MASH on Tumblr. Like, people younger than me who really like MASH. And I think it's just an interesting period of history as well. Because it's a piece of history that, as a non-American, never gets talked about. Like, ever. It just never gets discussed at all. I'm sure it is to a certain degree in America, but like, when I learned about MASH many years ago, this wasn't recent, but when I learned about MASH and like what period it takes place, I'm like, wait, what? That was what? Which war was that? There was a war there? what? Like it was an entire section of history, which I had just never heard of before. Now, granted, at the time, I was maybe 17 or so, but still, you know, I even as a teenager, I like history. I'm interested in history. And it was just an entire section of history that just was never bothered to mention to us. So I think watching MASH would be very interesting from that perspective as well. Because from what I heard, although it's not an accurate representation, like it's not a documentary representation of that period of history, but it does, from what I hear, present a relatively accurate, if comedic, look at what it was like being a soldier in where is it? It's Korea, right? I'm not even entirely sure. Is it Vietnam or Korea? I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, it's like a comedic representation of what being part of that situation was like. Similar to how Scrubs, despite being a comedy, is often said to be the most accurate medical show on TV. Despite it being the funny one, a Korean War, thank you. Despite it being the funny one, a lot of doctors say Scrubs most accurately represents what it's actually like being a doctor in a hospital. So from what I heard, MASH is very similar, where it more accurately represents what it was like being part of the Korean War than like dramas that would focus on that period. According to NC's Top 11 Dumbasses in Distress video, it's when Lois Lane became a smarter character that her choices became more frustrating, because the writers don't have her act as smart as she is. Yeah, Lois Lane is a interesting character. But again, I don't have massive experience with DC. I like Batman, but because I grew up with the Batman animated show, and as such, I'm just a little bit more familiar with Batman, mostly from that angle, not so much the movie angle. I've seen the movies, but you know, it depends how you come to Batman, and I came to Batman through the animated TV show, so that's more my focus. But when it comes to Superman and like his mythos, I guess is the way to put it, I'm not as well versed, and I mainly like Superman when he's interacting with Batman, because I find their friendship really interesting and fun to read about and stuff. I just think it's a very fun dynamic, and I think they bounce off each other very well. That's why I wanted to watch more of Justice League Unlimited, because it has a lot of that in it, where it's Batman and Superman kind of butting heads over ideologies regarding superheroes, and I just think that's a very interesting conversation. Funny enough, the series lasted longer than the actual war. At least that's what I heard. I've actually heard that too. And I heard that it might have been broken now, but I hear that the finale for MASH holds the world record for most tuned-in viewers, if I remember correctly. I don't know whether that record has been broken yet, but I remember that being a thing, where people say that MASH holds the record for most people tuning in, the finale specifically. It might be Seinfeld that did it one better, but I can't remember. I would have to double check the book. But I remember like for years, almost decades, that was a thing when nobody outdid MASH in terms of viewership when its finale aired. Which is very interesting. It held it for decades. Yeah, that's what I heard. Again, I'm not sure whether Seinfeld passed it or not. Simply because I have a photo, not one I took myself, I found it online. A photo of people in Times Square watching the finale for Seinfeld on like the big TV in Times Square. Like they were broadcasting the finale for Seinfeld on the giant TV in Times Square, and Times Square was just packed with people watching it. So I'm not entirely sure whether Seinfeld's finale broke MASH's record. I'll have to double check that. That sounds right. Even in 83, there were still only the three main networks. Fox hadn't launched yet, so the cultural moment had room to breathe. Yeah, it's similar to, in a weird way, it makes me think of that video Imp Lemon made about the Miami Dolphins, which is a American football team, and how to this day they hold the only record for having a perfect season, where they did not lose a single game in their entire season. And that has never been replicated, but it also has a lot to do with how things were just perfect for that to happen, and how the chances of that record being broken is far more difficult to do these days than it was when the Miami Dolphins did it. But that still doesn't change the fact that nobody has done it since the Miami Dolphins. I think I've said this before in streams. I don't care about sports, but I really am interested in everything about sports except the sport itself. I'm interested in everything surrounding sport. I'm interested in the stories and the people and how everything happened. I'm just not interested in watching the sport itself. So MASH reminds me, like, it's this record that you think, oh, well, that'll get broken eventually, and it just doesn't, and it doesn't, and it doesn't, and that record just, it stays in place for longer and longer and longer. And the longer time goes by that you realize this record is not getting broken, the more you realize, oh, that was actually a big deal. And I feel like MASH's finale is a lot like that too, where it was a big deal when it happened, but it was as the decades rolled past when people started realizing how big a deal it actually was. It's one of those kinds of things. I don't know if it was ER, but that show's finale had a huge turnout. I can believe that, but I don't think it was ER. I know that MASH's finale has been surpassed, but I don't think it was ER. I'm guessing Seinfeld, but it might not have been. There's a lot of fascinating things that happen around sports. Yeah, exactly. Like, I really love the movie Moneyball. Moneyball, I think, has like 2 minutes of baseball in it, and the rest of it is just a bunch of guys discussing statistics for like an hour and a half, and it's so good. It's such a good movie. It's just these guys trying to figure out how to have an independent baseball team when every other baseball team in America is sponsored by a major like corporation. And what can an indie team do when they can't pay their players enough to stay on the team? Because the second the player gets too good, one of the corporate sponsored teams come in and like headhunt them. It's a fascinating movie. It's based on true events. It's really good. Let me grab some water because I am dying. I'm gonna have to say goodbye soon. It's almost midnight and my power gets cut at midnight. At least theoretically. The power was supposed to go off between 4 and 6 and it didn't. But I am going to operate as if the power is going off at midnight. But what are you guys saying, like, before we leave? Because I just enjoy chatting. Like I said, I'm working on having something on screen that's a little bit more lively when I'm just chatting with you guys. You're not staring at a static screen. Water. I just checked. MASH's finale's viewership hasn't been beaten and won't ever be due to streaming. Really? It's not been beaten? That's insane. That's insane. I was sure like something like Seinfeld would have at least beaten it. That's crazy. I think that a live action Danny Phantom is a terrible idea. It is a terrible idea. That's a terrible idea. Rather do, like, that's a cartoon that I would actually do a remake of just because of how badly the finale was done. It's so bad. The finale for Danny Phantom is so bad. But Danny Phantom has like one of the best fan bases ever. So it's also like, I don't know, maybe I'm not in the Danny fandom, so maybe it's more up to them to say whether they think a remake would be a good idea. But as an outsider, I feel that Danny Phantom deserves a remake, if only to try and fix the awful finale it had. Seepuff, this was a nice stream though. I dig the discussion. Keep up the fantastic work on your review and analysis video. Thank you. And I hope you guys like the new part. I'm always a little bit nervous about putting up a new part, especially if it's not part 1, but it's like part 2 or 3. Because I do know there's a slight drop off in views. I don't check the views because again, it's very easy to get obsessive about that kind of thing. But I do know realistically there's a bit of a drop off when it's a part 2 and 3 because people need to have watched part 1 to watch part 2, etc. But I hope you guys enjoy the parts up until I can release the supercut, because I know supercuts tend to do well because people like me, it's just nice to have what I saw somebody call second monitor content. And I think that's a good way to put it. Like, it's really nice second monitor content, but I highly appreciate the support you guys give me while I'm working on the individual parts. Because yeah, I can't just work on a supercut for like 7 months and just put nothing on the channel. That's just not realistic. So I really appreciate the support as I'm doing it part by part by part. And yeah, I hope you guys like the new part. I was a little bit worried that people would really come for me about my opinions on Lois and her throwing herself off the building, but everybody in the comments has been really nice. A lot of people have been saying like their perspectives on it, and how they felt about it. Oh, that was the ending music. That's not right. We have to keep that one until I say goodbye. But yeah, I was worried that some people would come for me because I didn't like that part. Because like I said, when I put up part 1, I had people defending that scene and being like, Lois did nothing wrong. So I was worried people would like really argue with me about that. But for the most part, it seems people at least understand my opinion. Even if they might not agree, but people seem to kind of get what I mean by why it bothers me. And like I said, it's not so much that she jumps off the building, it's how the narrative doesn't acknowledge that she did a terrible thing. It just kind of sides with her, even though she's in the wrong in this situation. That's more the problem. So yeah, I hope you guys like it. Let me see what everybody's saying just before we go. Adam Sandler video gave CPUF trauma. Nah, you know what? Not really. Because again, you can't have that thinner skin if you're on YouTube, right? It's just not possible. But the discussions on Leo was interesting to me. And it did show me that I should be clear with certain points, because with the Leo video, I thought that my problems with it were quite obvious. Even though the movie has such a high rating, I'm like, no, if people can see what I'm pointing out, they can see why it's bad. But it seems like many people disagreed, and I mean, that's fine, I don't mind. It was just very interesting to me. I'm like, oh, okay. So even if I think people might be on my side with something, it's still worthwhile to explain my opinion clearly and not just assume people are going to agree with me. So that was an interesting, I guess, thing to learn is the way to put it. It just, when I, let's say, make mistakes, even though that wasn't really what that was, but I am learning as I go, right? And I appreciate it when it's like, oh, okay, I see, here I made this mistake. Okay, so next time I'll do that. And again, this is why I don't check views and analytics, because my thing of like, oh, let's fix this. Okay, we'll improve on that. I don't want to look at the analytics, because then that part of me is going to go crazy with like micromanaging, and it's just not worth it. It's not worth it, you know. I just let things be. Do the video, and people either like it or they don't, and all I can do is hope that people like it. How would someone like you write Lois and Clark's love story? I want to go into that when I reach the final part of My Adventures with Superman, because I want the entire show to then look back on and then really say, this is what I don't like here, this is what I don't like here. I haven't been entirely successful in just not talking about it, because I've already started mentioning things like there's no playful banter between them whatsoever. Like, these two characters never talk to each other. They sit and they blush at each other, and we're supposed to automatically find that cute. And it's like, no, you have to do writing. You have to write the characters. Why don't you want to write the characters? Like, it's maddening. So that's a big problem. But like, things move forward. It's such a mess. The entire romance is such a mess in this show. It's similar to like High Guardian Spice, where it's like, if this is the reason why you wanted to write the show, like this was your main focus, why are you so bad at it? Hey Dark Frost, I'm actually just saying goodbye because my power is about to get turned off for the night. Thoughts on Blood Raining Night? It's not as good as NNSG, but I'm not sure what that is. Also, thanks for the super chat, Gunther. Lois Lane? More like Lois Lame. Got him. Yeah, that's right. By the way, Sipa, have you heard of Wheels and Roses on Kickstarter? I have. I think I saw that. I hope it goes through, because, again, we need more Magical Girl content that's not just Precure. I like Precure. There's the Super Chat notification. I like Precure, but Precure is a very specific tone with a very specific target audience, and we need more than just Precure. Because as fun as it is a Magical Girl show aimed at little girls, specifically like children. And even though Sailor Moon was also aimed at children, Sailor Moon has a bit more grit to it. And because Naoko Takeuchi doesn't give a shit, she wrote in all these like really complex things into the manga, which the anime then had to address. And just because Ikuhara is insane, like Ikuhara went off the rails with Sailor Moon, which is great, and I'm so happy he did that. But we need more than just Precure, because it's so boring after a while just to have one version of Magical Girls and that's it. I mean, that's really lame. I've started watching tokusatsu. As I said, I'm watching Kamen Rider Kuga, and it's so different to like Power Rangers in terms of tone and how the story develops and things. And it just shows me that even in like tokusatsu shows, there's a lot of variety in what kind of show you get. And I just feel like in the magical girl genre, all we have is Precure, and Precure is almost always exactly the same. And we need more than that. And we need more than American cartoons that are like obsessed with Sailor Moon that they watched when they were 13, right? We need more than people who watch Sailor Moon. And I need to say goodnight because I'm hiccuping and I need to chug some water. The important thing to remember is that the title My Adventures with Superman is Lois focused, with not Clark. Yeah, and I think a lot of problems with Lois's writing is the fact that the people who wrote the show, they already liked Lois, so they just assumed that the audience would like Lois, and they didn't really put in effort to make the audience like Lois. Because they already like Lois, they just like her. So they're like, oh, everybody will love my character. It's like, no, you have to make us like your character. We are under no obligation to like your character. It doesn't matter if you like her or not. Anyway, yes. Oh my god, these villains are evil and gay. I can't even believe you remember that quote from like one of my first videos. It's still true though. It's still true. Thanks again for Scream. Thanks guys. Like I said, I'm going to chug some water. Have stuff to do tomorrow. I want to start writing the script. Got to see the doctor for a thing. I have to do some paperwork for something not work related, but it's really important administrative work, which is very fun because I'm very good at paperwork. It's I'm an animator. Making me do like important paperwork is cruel and unusual punishment, but I have to do it, and I have to do it tomorrow. I can't put it off, so I have to do that. But like I said, I'll get started on the script. Of course, it means I'll have to watch more My Adventures with Superman, but like I said, I'll watch Kamen Rider Kuga and I'll get over it, because that show is really good. Really enjoying that show. Thank you for the stream. Everybody's saying thank you. Okay, any last messages before we go? One last message. So whoever gets it first, I'll answer that, and then I'm going to say goodnight. Because otherwise I'm going to be sitting here in the dark. And that's not fun for me. Been forever, this reminds. I think of these writers operate. It's a very iconic line. It is a very iconic line. Scott Pilgrim. I need to watch Scott Pilgrim. Best platform to support me? Honestly, YouTube. YouTube is the best platform to support me on. I do have a Patreon, which I'm very grateful for. I am afraid of Patreon for various reasons to do with high school. It sounds weird, but it makes sense, I promise. Patreon kind of triggers those same buttons in my head as not doing well on a test, if that makes sense. So, Patreon, even though I'm very grateful, and I'm very grateful for my support there, I do find it a little bit more stressful to handle, so YouTube is actually the better platform to support me on. But yes, I'm going to say goodnight. I'm going to get some water. Who's my favorite Revolutionary Girl Utena character? That is a trap. I can't answer that without revealing too much about myself. But it's Anthe. I also really like Nanami. Nanami is really cool. She's like the unsung hero of that show. Like, Nanami is almost the main character of Utena. Like, if the show wasn't about Utena, it would have been about Nanami. So, that Nanami and Anthe herself. Just because Anthe is such an interesting character. Okay, that's enough for me. Let me put on the song that it started playing earlier because we went over 3 hours. And I will see you guys next time. Let me transition to this. And I'll remember to put the picture in the community tab because I keep forgetting to post the finished image. Oops, bumped the mic. I keep forgetting to put the finished image in the community posts because it's usually really late at night. My brain is fried. Anyway, good night, guys. I shall see you next time.